Warcraft, the Tree of Eternity. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426, Piccolo the Great Demon King. Although Piccolo didn't underestimate the Blood Mountain, which had undergone a great change, he didn't take the Blood Elves too seriously. Piccolo had previously sent demon troops to attack Blood Mountain in an attempt to occupy the Holy War altar early and gain an advantage in the Holy War that was about to come in the next few years. Therefore, he had a general understanding of the strength of the Blood Elves on Blood Mountain. The defeat of the army of about 2,000 demons at Blood Mountain had surprised Piccolo. Therefore, he tempted and threatened the Beetle Demon King to join the team to share the possible risks. But now the number and strength of the Blood Elves still greatly exceeded Piccolo's expectations. When Illidan was helping the Blood Tribe to eliminate the invading demons, a legendary demon finally escaped. The demon was one of the 3 demon generals who were resisting the obelisk raise now. After being frightened by Illidan's might, he returned to Piccolo's castle and attributed the failure of the operation entirely to the sudden appearance of Illidan and other Night Elves. The actual situation at that time was indeed that the Blood Elves had no power to resist, and they relied on the Night Elf squad to defeat the demon army. In front of Piccolo, the demon general described the Blood Elves as useless, and the demons could easily kill them. If it weren't for the sudden appearance of those powerful creatures, they would never have failed to complete the king's mission. But now the situation on the field is indeed that those powerful creatures different from the Blood Elves have not yet made a move, and the demon army has been suppressed by the Blood Elves, and it is extremely difficult to move forward. Piccolo was already thinking in his heart that he must punish the nonsense demon general after the war. But thinking so, as a demon who has become a king, a demon who has gotten rid of vulgar interests, he naturally would not do the stupid thing of beheading the general in front of the battle. Instead, he decided to clean up his men's ass and personally test the power of the Blood Elves. At the same time, he also wanted to lure out those powerful creatures that were different from the Blood Elves, and to show his power, to shock his demons and beetle kings. The powerful demon king quietly floated into the air, with his hands open, as if he wanted to embrace the whole world. As Piccolo posed, countless white light bullets suddenly appeared in front of him, trembling gently as if they would fly out at any time. Without hesitation, Piccolo shook his arms forward and launched an attack. Evil Beam Bullet. With a low shout, countless white light bullets floating in front of Piccolo quickly drifted towards the Blood Elves. Bang bang. The power contained in each energy ball called Evil Beam Bullet was not too strong, but it was not something that ordinary primary defense magic could resist. After all, this was an attack from a demon king who was the most powerful even in the epic level. The defensive measures set up by a few Blood Elf magicians who randomly cast primary defense magic were broken after resisting the invasion of the evil beam bombs for a while, causing some casualties to the few Blood Elves that followed. But more evil beam bombs were blocked by intermediate and even advanced defense magic. Seeing that his attack failed to effectively kill a large number of Blood Elves, the Great Demon King Piccolo curled his lips. He did not expect that his most common attack method would kill a large number of Blood Elves who had already shown their impressive strength. But watching the injured Blood Elves recover quickly under the treatment of the Blood Elf priests, the Great Demon King Piccolo could not help but feel unhappy in addition to being surprised. The strange changes of these Blood Elves did make him feel that there were unknown benefits in the changes of Blood Mountain. But this Great Demon King who shocked the surroundings only killed and injured dozens of Blood Elves, and the injured were still being treated by other Blood Elves with methods that had never appeared in the demon world, which made him feel very embarrassed. After the indignation, the Great Demon King Piccolo was ready to use a big move directly. He wanted to defeat the Blood Elves as soon as possible and find out what kind of benefits existed on the Blood Mountain. If he could also obtain that kind of healing ability, combined with the demon's own powerful recovery ability, his troops would definitely be invincible. He was still floating in the air with his arms open, but the power fluctuations that appeared in front of Piccolo this time were much larger than before. A twisting energy column slowly appeared in front of Piccolo, and energy threads like electric light were twisting on it. You very naturally would not fail to notice this powerful energy fluctuation. Looking at the sound and light effects of Piccolo's attack this time, Yufei suddenly felt a strange sense of familiarity. When launching those energy bombs before, Piccolo seemed to shout something. Could it be the name of the move? Yufei could not interrupt Piccolo's big move that was about to be released with his mental power alone, but it was still easy to spread his mental power around Piccolo to listen to what he would shout. After a few seconds of charging, the energy column in front of Piccolo became thicker and brighter, ready to go. Still swinging his arm slightly forward, Piccolo finally launched the attack. Yufei, who had been spreading his mental power around Piccolo, also clearly heard the name of this move that gave him a strange sense of familiarity. Magic Light Killing Cannon. With Piccolo's low shout, Yufei was immediately struck by lightning. Damn, could this Piccolo really have traveled from Namek? Not only is the name the same, but even the name of this move is the same. While Yufei was struck by lightning, the Magic Light Killing Cannon hit the Blood Elves formation without any deviation. Boom. Boom. The Magic Light Killing Cannon lived up to its domineering name. The thick and bright energy column instantly smashed a flame shield and a wind wall, and directly vaporized some Blood Elves behind it. And this is not all the power of the Magic Light Killing Cannon. The energy column just dimmed a little, and continued to bombard the Blood Elves behind with a strong momentum. Under the full force of the epic Demon King, even the high-level defensive magic randomly cast by the elite Blood Elf magician still did not have much resistance. The Demon King Piccolo watched this scene with a smile on his face. This is more like it. Either I don't make a move, or I must make a move that can affect the situation. I think after this Magic Light Killing Cannon, those Blood Elves who cast magic in a strange way will be killed and injured, and my men will be able to quickly advance into the Blood Elf camp. Just as Piccolo was relaxing and imagining the changes that would be favorable to the demons, the momentum of the Magic Light Cannon that had caused considerable damage to the Blood Elves came to an abrupt halt. The smile on his lips suddenly froze, and Piccolo looked solemnly at the black curtain that blocked the Magic Light Cannon's momentum. Perhaps it should not be called a black curtain. It was a semicircular black energy shield upside down on the ground. This energy shield was naturally Illidan's demon domain. Unable to watch another group of the Father's people being seriously injured, Illidan directly activated the demon transformation without waiting for Yufei's order, relying on the attached demon domain to block the Magic Light Cannon. Illidan, who attacked strongly, not only resisted Piccolo's confident attack, but also took the initiative to attack, bringing the demon troops that were still struggling with the weakened magic attack into the coverage of his domain. After coming to the demon world, Illidan's demon domain was discovered to have new abilities. Relying on the power brought by killing demons, he could theoretically maintain the state of demon transformation indefinitely. And by killing demons, the various abilities of the demon domain and Illidan's own strength can be quickly improved. Now that so many demons have come to the door, Illidan is naturally embarrassed not to accept them. The demons who were resisting the continuous magic suddenly found that there were no more fireballs and wind blades falling from their heads, and they couldn't help but look up with joy. But then their joy disappeared. The magic that fell was gone, but the sky above was already pitch black. Looking around, the air seemed to suddenly become dim, and there were wisps of deep black breath. Most of the demons looked confused, and the demon general who had escaped from the Blood Mountain before suddenly looked ugly. Although he ran away when he saw something wrong last time, he still remembered the power of Illidan's demon domain. At that time, where the black domain swept, the demons didn't even leave their bodies, and it was this black domain that caused the last operation to fail. The demon general knew that, since he had been enveloped in Illidan's domain, he would definitely not be able to escape easily. Now he could only rely on the great demon king Piccolo. But before that, he had to resist the attacks launched against the demons in the demon domain. With waves of roars of various colors, a large number of black figures appeared in the demon domain. These black figures attacked the demons in the domain without saying a word, coordinated with the weapons, condensed by the demon's breath dancing in the air. This kind of real close combat is much better for the demons than the situation where they could only be attacked by magic in vain. All the demons gave up the pursuit of how they suddenly appeared in such an environment without hesitation and fought back. But among them, the demon general looked at the black figure that suddenly appeared in front of him, and a trace of chill came out of his heart. There is only this chapter today equals underscore equals there will be 3 updates tomorrow. If you have 9,000 words, please feel free to ask for more. Chapter 427, Demon Realm reappears. Although the whole body turned black, the demon general could clearly recognize the face of the black figure who was his opponent. He was horrified to find that the enemy opposite him looked exactly like his former comrade, except that the color turned black. When Illidan first led nearly 100 Night Elves to the demon world, he helped the Scholar tribe kill most of the invading demons. Among the legendary demons, who were the leaders, only the demon general who was now shrouded in the demon domain escaped, and the other legendary demons died in Illidan's hands. Illidan's demon domain has the ability to evolve into killed creatures through demonic aura. The opposite side of this demon general who escaped from Illidan was a demon general who was killed by Illidan before and evolved from demonic aura. Although in terms of strength, this summoned resurrected demon is one level weaker than the original one, the strange feeling that the former teammate has become his opponent will make everyone who knows about it feel cold in their hearts. Because the black weapons made of demonic aura were still flying in the air and constantly attacking, although the resurrected demons in the demon realm were a level lower than their original strength, they still fought well with the demon soldiers in the realm. However, after all, the total number of demons that attacked this time was over 10,000. Although there were only about 4,000 demon soldiers belonging to the great demon king Piccolo who attacked head on, it was still not possible for Illidan's demon realm to cover them all at once. Most of the demons who were smarter and did not rush to the front stopped their charge and began to slowly retreat when they saw the sudden appearance of the demon realm resisting the great demon king Piccolo's magic light killing cannon. In the end, only some of the demons who rushed to the front were covered by the demon realm. Excluding the hundreds of demons killed by the previous Blood Elves offensive, there were still more than 2,000 demons left outside the demon realm. Although these demons did not know what Illidan's demon realm was, it did not prevent them from staying away from unknown things. Although the demon domain is not small, it is only a hemispherical domain upside down on the ground. The demons that are not covered in it have chosen to bypass the demon domain and continue to attack. In fact, after suffering a lot of damage, the morale of the demon soldiers has been hit hard, and their desire to attack has also been reduced a lot. Not to mention, the 3 demon generals who are the commanders have been specially taken care of by Illidan and all of them are covered in the demon domain. But the great demon king Piccolo behind them has already made a move. As subordinates, if they don't make a gesture of trying their best to attack, they will definitely be hated by the moody demon king. Of course, they failed to break into the Blood Elf troops when the number of troops was still large before. Now that the number has greatly decreased, there is naturally no hope. The demon soldiers are counting on the fact that the great demon king Piccolo will continue to show his powerful strength to teach the Blood Elves a lesson if his attack fails. But what these ordinary demon soldiers don't know is that the savior in their hearts, the great demon king Piccolo, is extremely shocked and surprised at this time. In addition to the fact that his magic light cannon was blocked by Illidan, what surprised him even more was the aura displayed by Illidan's demon domain. From the pitch black barrier, Piccolo could vaguely sense an aura that made him extremely disgusted. That feeling was like encountering a natural enemy. Shaking his head, Piccolo threw this speculation out of his mind. Even in the world where the Holy War was launched, there was no hearing or record of a power that could restrain demons. When fighting with other races, demons often rely on their strong bodies and the ability to cast spells and innate curses to occupy an absolute upper hand. Perhaps it was because this enemy of the same level of power that suddenly appeared was stained with too much demon blood. Piccolo could feel the countless wailing demon souls that died in the demon domain. This is an opponent worth fighting, and Piccolo's eyes were solemn. If it were in another scenario, he would definitely have a good fight with this strong man who had deployed a powerful barrier, but now he was on the battlefield, and there might be huge interests behind this strong man. Therefore, he could not blame himself for using his numbers to bully the weak. Legendary demon subordinates were also very precious to the great demon king Piccolo. When his 3 demon generals were also trapped in the demon realm, the great demon king Piccolo did not hesitate to fly over and broke into the demon realm. Although the barrier formed by the demon realm has the function of isolating the inside and the outside, the previous blocking of the magic light killing cannon was a manifestation of this characteristic. But when the strong men of the same level really wanted to break in personally, the external blocking effect that the demon realm could play was relatively weak. However, it was not so easy to get out after entering the demon realm. This was especially obvious for the demon species. As soon as the great demon King Piccolo entered the demon realm, he found that he was imposed with a strange sense of restraint, which made it difficult for him to escape from the demon realm. The great demon King Piccolo did not care too much about this. Although this sense of restraint made him feel very uncomfortable, he did not think there was no way to escape from the demon realm if he really wanted to. It was just that he entered the demon realm to rescue his thousands of subordinates and to fight with the strong man of the same level, so he was not in a hurry to try to escape from the demon realm. However, after entering the demon realm, Piccolo found that there was something else inside. This thing that looked like a magic barrier from the outside was like being out of the demon realm, and the environment became completely different. Whether it was the black weapons flying in the air, the floating demon aura, or the creatures that were fighting with his subordinates and looked like demons, but were all black, they were all things that Piccolo had never seen in the endless years he had lived. After entering the demon realm, Piccolo looked around and suddenly found something wrong. One of the important reasons for his sudden entry into the demon realm was to rescue his legendary subordinates. After entering the demon realm, he quickly discovered 3 demon generals who were fighting with some black creatures. However, the opponents of his subordinates made Piccolo, a demon who had experienced many storms and seen countless big scenes, feel extremely strange. With thousands of subordinates, Piccolo naturally would not remember the appearance of ordinary demon soldiers one by one. But he naturally knew all the legendary demon generals. Like the demon general who escaped once before, Piccolo also recognized some puppets resurrected in the demon realm that looked exactly like his original subordinates. What is going on? Looking at those black creatures who were working hard to kill his demons, but whose appearance was exactly the same as the several demon generals who were said to have died, even Piccolo, with his temperament, could not help but be stunned for a moment. Could it be that his subordinates were not killed, but betrayed him? After a little stagnation, Piccolo couldn't help but have this thought in his mind. But he soon rejected his guess. Piccolo was very confident in his cruel methods of controlling his subordinates. Moreover, he could not think of the reason why his men betrayed him. Seeing that his men had turned black and their auras were much weaker, they did not seem to be his original men. It seemed that he had heard of this state of his men somewhere before. That's right. It is said that in the ice purgatory, there are some strange creatures that have no aura of the living, but can move and fight freely. The state of his men seemed to be somewhat similar to those creatures in the rumors. However, due to the extreme climate, the ice purgatory has less magic smoke than the lava kingdom. Except for the ice demons that originally lived in it, few demons from other places entered it. Therefore, even the great demon King Piccolo did not know what the situation of those creatures was, and could not make an effective judgment. However, even if his men dared to show disrespect, the great demon King Piccolo would kill them directly. Now these men who turned black, whether they were controlled or betrayed him, since they dared to be his enemy, there was only one way to kill them. Drink. Piccolo let out a roar, and then his body, which was not thin but not strong, slowly began to expand, and soon became the same size as a mountain giant. Super giant body technique. This is a natural ability of Piccolo. Because he was very uncomfortable with the sense of restraint on demon creatures in the demon domain, he used this ability to make his body extremely huge to reduce the sense of restraint. Sure enough, after his body became much larger, the natural suppression of demon creatures in the demon domain was weakened a lot. However, this increase in size caused Piccolo to suffer more attacks. Most of the black weapons that were originally flying in the air and attacking demons in the domain from time to time now gathered around Piccolo and launched a series of attacks on this giant demon. Such a huge target is naturally much easier to hit than those demons who can dodge quickly. However, the super giant body technique brought Piccolo not only a change in body size, but also a lot of improvement in his defense. The weapons formed by the demonic auras could not cause any effective damage to the giant Piccolo. There are 2 more chapters to come, around 11 o'clock and before midnight. Chapter 428, Illidan and Piccolo's Battle. Illidan would naturally pay attention to this demon king who took the initiative to enter his domain. In terms of power level, the 8th level hero is only equivalent to the position between the late epic level and the peak, while the great demon king Piccolo has already reached the peak of the epic level, so Illidan couldn't help but feel a sense of vigilance. Everything in the demon domain is controlled by Illidan. Most of the weapons condensed by the demonic aura attack the giant Piccolo, which is naturally a test by Illidan. Although the giant Piccolo has not shown anything in attack, its defense is already strong enough. With a thought, the Set's Hell Envoy puppet that was not released originally suddenly appeared and attacked the giant Piccolo. The size of the Set's Hell Envoy is relatively large, with a height of 3 or 4 meters. But in front of the giant Piccolo, which is almost the same size as the mountain giant, it can only jump up and hit him hard on the waist. In addition, after the Set's Hell Envoy became a puppet, its strength was reduced by 1 level, and it could not resist the great demon king Piccolo for long. Just by raising his hands and kicking his legs, the giant Piccolo suppressed the Set's Hell Messenger. If it weren't for the black weapons that could harass him, the Set's Hell Messenger might have been dispersed immediately. However, although the great demon king Piccolo could easily deal with the opponents assigned to him by Illidan, his subordinates in the demon realm were not the same. Except for the 3 legendary demon generals who were still able to do it, the other demon soldiers were facing opponents who were equal to themselves, or weaker than themselves. There were about 1,000 demon soldiers in the demon realm this time, and the demons killed by Illidan, before plus some Set's creatures, he was able to use the demonic aura to evolve about 2,000 puppets. In this way, the puppets with weakened strength had the upper hand. The great demon king Piccolo naturally would not watch his subordinates being killed one by one. After easily suppressing the puppet of the Set's Hell Messenger, the giant Piccolo made a strange gesture. After the huge figure kicked the puppet of Set's Hell Messenger away with his 2 feet, he held his stomach with both hands, looking like he was practicing kicking and exhaling. As he took this posture, the abdomen of the giant Piccolo suddenly swelled up, as if something was growing inside. Yuffie, who had been paying attention to the great demon king Piccolo, almost laughed to death when he saw his posture. Looking at the constipated expression on his face with his hands holding the swollen abdomen, could the great demon king Piccolo be about to give birth? But soon, Yuffie could no longer laugh. The next move of the great demon king Piccolo gave him a familiar feeling again. The giant Piccolo rubbed his hands on his stomach, and the swollen part began to move upwards with his hands, and soon reached the neck. Compared to the body, the neck, which was much thinner, was quickly stretched when the swollen part was lifted here, and it looked like it was about to burst. "Is he going to vomit?" Exclamation mark. Yuffie exclaimed in his heart. Can the epic demon king also feel unwell and vomit? It shouldn't be. Before Yuffie could make more guesses, the giant Piccolo showed what he was doing with his actual actions. With the last lift of the giant Piccolo, white eggs were quickly ejected from his mouth and fell into the demon realm. Puff, 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 the continuous spitting sound was heard, and soon there were hundreds of white eggs on the ground. Each of these eggs was the size of a human body. Hundreds of them spread on the ground looked much larger than the giant Piccolo. No one knew how he produced them. But although the behavior of the giant Piccolo looked funny, the effect was excellent. The white eggs that fell on the ground trembled one by one, gradually broke apart, and green figures emerged from them. Looking closely, these green figures looked very similar to the great demon Piccolo, but they were different in fatness, thinness, height, and height. It was as if the children of the great demon Piccolo were hatched from these eggs. The Namekians invaded. Yuffie had only this thought in his mind. A Piccolo who looks like an Namekian doesn't mean much. The appearance of these hundreds of creatures that look like Namekians really makes Yuffie think so. Well, I remember that this seems to be the egg spitting skill of the first generation Piccolo in Dragon Ball. Then the strength of the Piccolo hatched from these eggs must be strong. Yuffie's judgment was not wrong. Hundreds of Piccolo just came out of the eggs and joined the battle between the demon soldiers and the puppet warriors of the demon realm. The addition of these hundreds of new forces turned the situation in the demon realm upside down. Originally, Piccolo had restrained most of the black weapons condensed by the demon aura, which reduced the pressure on the demon soldiers. Now he relied on the hundreds of Piccolo creatures derived from spitting eggs. The strength is much stronger than that of ordinary demon soldiers, and he quickly killed many puppet demons. The flame of sacrifice rose from his feet, and Illidan, who turned into a black demon, had a solemn face. It seems that, if we don't show some real skills, it is possible that this great demon King Piccolo will turn the tables on his own. When the strength reaches the epic level, ordinary humans or ordinary races are fine, but special creatures like demons almost all have the ability to change the situation of the battle on their own. If facing a large but weak human army, these hundreds of Piccolo-like people with strength ranging from silver to cloud level are enough to reverse a battle. Although Illidan in demon form can launch long-range attacks, he is still better at close combat when facing strong people of the same level. Illidan casually threw out a few more energy balls with long green tail flames, and then he held the battle blade placed behind his back after the transformation and quickly approached the giant Piccolo. In the demon realm, Illidan's various attributes have been greatly enhanced. His movement speed became extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he came to the giant Piccolo and swung the battle blade in his hand fiercely. On the other hand, Piccolo felt a flash before his eyes, and then a strangely shaped warblade swung at him, directly breaking through the defense that was enhanced by the supergiant body state and releasing countless blood. Ah! The giant Piccolo let out a painful howl and used all his strength to hit the ground below. The root of his thigh was greatly injured, and Piccolo instinctively attacked Illidan with the power of his body. As for why it was below his body, it was because, even if he turned into a demon, Illidan was still just a dwarf in front of the giant Piccolo, and it was only as high as the giant Piccolo's thigh. Looking at the blood splattering from the root of the giant Piccolo's thigh, Yufei couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Illidan was really clever, and he actually attacked the vitals of Piccolo directly. As a humanoid demon, 3 inches below the navel is naturally a weakness. The conditional reflex counterattack of the giant Piccolo could only be in vain for Illidan, who had rich combat experience. When his arm swung down, another warblade in Illidan's hand had already met it. Not only did the giant Piccolo fail to hurt Illidan, but a huge wound appeared on his arm. As the exclusive weapon of the demon hunter, the warblade of Azimuth has a very high damage bonus to demon creatures. And Illidan's hero exclusive equipment, the Demon Slayer set, also has a damage bonus to demons. Even if Illidan swung the warblade lightly, he could add a shocking wound to Piccolo, whose flexibility was greatly reduced after the giantization. After fighting Illidan with anger for a few times, Piccolo found that his flexibility after the giantization was far inferior to that of the enemies of the same level in front of him. In this way, the opponent could easily attack him, and he had no room to fight back. Thinking that the strongest egg-spitting ability after the giantization had been cast, Piccolo released the supergiant body technique, restored his original body shape, and fought Illidan vividly. After returning to his original size, Piccolo looked much more capable. In battle, he was no longer as restrained as he was in his giant form. As a demon with a strong body, Piccolo, like most demons, prefers close combat and has rich experience in hand-to-hand combat. However, when facing Illidan, who has skills such as zealotry and dodge, as well as some equipment bonuses, his rich combat experience is not enough for Piccolo to gain the upper hand. When the two sides were at a stalemate, Piccolo showed a new ability. Illidan, who was concentrating on fighting Piccolo in close combat, suddenly found that the enemy opposite him suddenly emitted a blazing white light from his eyes. The speed of this light was very fast, and it suddenly appeared from his eyes. Illidan was hit by this before he could react. The means of the strong man of the same level naturally caused Illidan a lot of damage, but it did not affect his combat effectiveness. Relying on the life recovery bonus brought by the passive skill zealotry, this injury will soon recover. In a sense, Illidan's regeneration ability, after changing into a demon, is much stronger than that of ordinary demons. In the following battle, the two demons used all their means. One moment, Illidan suddenly started the sacrifice, burning Piccolo to a pulp. The next moment, Piccolo used the mouth light bullet, causing Illidan considerable damage again. Piccolo could attack from his eyes and mouth, which was extremely insidious, and Illidan always fell into the trap. However, Illidan also continued to sacrifice and burn mana from time to time, so he did not fall behind. Chapter 429, Escape. In the demon realm, it was a battle between kings and soldiers. Although the demon army had the upper hand after the appearance of hundreds of Piccolo, they could not quickly get rid of those puppets in the demon realm. After all, every demon killed in the demon realm would enhance the power of the demon realm. However, compared with the slight advantage in the demon realm, the demon army outside the realm seemed to be extremely miserable. Although it was difficult to advance, at least nearly 4,000 demon soldiers could easily resist the waves of primary attack magic and not suffer too much damage. However, after the intervention of the great demon King Piccolo, he launched 2 rounds of attacks. Although he killed some blood elves and weakened some of the enemy's firepower, he led to Illidan's demon realm, covering thousands of demon soldiers. In this way, the power comparison between the two sides not only did not tend to be balanced, but widened. As for the demon King Piccolo, who the ordinary demon soldiers were counting on, he did not continue to attack the blood elves as they thought, but rushed into the demon realm, as if he had abandoned them. In addition, after the 3 demon generals were covered in the demon realm, the 30 obelisks were also released, and they cooperated with the blood elf magicians to form fire suppression again and beat the demon army miserably. I can't stand it. A demon covered with long hair rolled on the ground again to put out the flames brought out by the blood elf magician's fire magic and let out an angry howl. It was too frustrating to be attacked by the enemy's firepower but unable to make an effective counterattack. Some demons rushed to the front of the blood elf camp, but the blood knight troops and a few mountain giants and some claw druids who transformed into earth bears forced these demons to stop in hatred. The blood knights were fine, and their power level was about the same as most demons. Unless they were advanced lancers, shield cavalry, or even asylum and blood rage knights, they would only fight evenly with the demon soldiers. But the earth bears and mountain giants were different. Although they were few in number, the demons would be smashed to pieces like waves hitting rocks when they charged into these 2 types of soldiers. In this way, the demon troops could only be beaten in vain and could not fight back. The occasional long-range attacks could not pose any threat under the defensive magic of some elite blood elf magicians who had recovered from the attacks of the great demon King Piccolo. After the long-haired demon let out an angry howl, his body swelled a little, showing his extremely strong muscles. Among them, the swelling of the leg muscles was the most obvious. It seemed that he could not stand the current aggrieved situation and was going to do his best to attack the blood elf camp. Just as the surrounding demons were looking at this powerful long-haired demon with great expectation, hoping that he could burst out and lead everyone to break through the blood elves' defense line, the long-haired demon roared again and galloped away without looking back. The long-haired demon with extremely developed leg muscles ran at full speed, and his speed was really amazing. He ran out of the demon camp that was still struggling to withstand the magic charge and attack the defense line, and ran away in a flash. Looking at the demons who were either surprised, contemptuous, or suddenly realized where he passed, the long-haired demon felt no pressure in his heart. What? Have you ever seen someone run away as coolly as I do? The long-haired demon knew in his heart that with these 2,000 demons, he would definitely not be able to break through the blood elves' defense line, but would be gradually weakened and eroded by the continuous magic bombardment. With his sharp eyes, he found the blood elves who were ready to go behind the blood elf magicians, holding lances in their hands, and realized that the blood elves were not only thinking about defense, but also wanted to eat their demon army. After comparing in his mind, the long-haired demon who saw no hope of victory resolutely chose to be the first to escape. If he didn't run, he might not have a chance in a while. Anyway, the great demon King Piccolo would definitely not be able to detect the situation outside after entering the barrier. At worst, he could just run to another place and become a wild demon, which was better than dying here. If you Feli knew what the long-haired demon was thinking, he might have praised him. Among the demons with chaotic behavior and manic personality, there is actually such a person who can judge the situation. It can't be said that he is a strange person, a strange demon. The long-haired demon ran very fast, and the blood elf magicians paid more attention to the demons who rushed to the front. No one was distracted to attack the demons that were far away and did not rush towards this side. For a while, the long-haired demon actually escaped successfully. Most of the demons who were fighting with the bloody knights and sword dancers, or being ravaged by the mountain giant earth bear in the front, did not notice the guy running away behind. but the demon soldiers in the rear who failed to rush forward all noticed this example who ran away directly after a roar. Demons who can fall behind and play tricks are naturally different from those irritable demons who will fight to the death when fighting. They don't have the idea of fighting to the death. After seeing the example of the long-haired demon who led everyone to escape, everyone's mind was floating. Soon, several demons learned the behavior of the long-haired demon and chose to escape. But they didn't roar. If they attracted the attention of too many demons and ran together, who would buy them time to retreat? Facts have proved that the choice made by these smart demons is extremely correct. After them, more demons in the rear chose to escape and no longer fought in this place. That made the demons extremely frustrated. However, when dozens or even hundreds of demons began to escape, they would naturally not be as concealed as at the beginning. The Blood Elves also quickly discovered the fleeing demons in the back. How can this be? Yufei, who shifted his attention from the battle in the demon domain, frowned. I didn't expect the demons to make a strategic shift. Aren't they afraid that the great demon King Piccolo will settle accounts later? Although if nothing unexpected happens in this battle, the great demon King Piccolo will become a thing of the past. No, although at the beginning Yufei was still worried about whether the newly born Blood Elves could withstand the attack of tens of thousands of demons, the evolution of the situation and the powerful strength of the Blood Elves made him feel at ease, and even decided to annihilate the incoming demon troops. This can't be blamed on his misjudgment. First of all, the Blood Elves have never experienced actual combat before. Although their attributes and abilities seem to be strong, no one knows how they will perform in actual combat. Secondly, who knows that the tens of thousands of demons that are attacking are not of the same mind. The demon troops attacking from the other two directions are completely unproductive and do not bring any pressure to the Blood Elves, allowing them to fully deal with the frontal attack of the great demon King Piccolo. The unexpectedly strong strength of the Blood Elves and the lack of unity of the enemy have resulted in a situation where the demons, who have the advantage in numbers, are beaten without any ability to fight back. Every demon is the experience of the Blood Elves. A large part of the transformed Blood Elves are only ordinary level. How can they let them run away if they rely on these demons to upgrade? At the command, the Blood Elves burst out with all their strength. In fact, it can't be called an explosion. The Blood Elf magician troops had already tried their best. However, the Night Elves ranged attack troops and the Blood Elves melee units had not yet made any moves. Now, with the Blood Knights, Mountain Giants, and Earth Bears in front, they can be said to be impregnable. Whether it is the Blood Elf magicians or the Night Elf ranged troops that have started to attack, they can transfer all their firepower to the demons fleeing behind. The arrows of the Horned Hippogriff Knights are inconspicuous in the countless magic flames. However, the effect of these arrows is much stronger than that of ordinary primary and intermediate magic. Any arrow can cause a demon to be seriously injured. This is because Yufei specifically ordered it. The Night Elves who came across the border are all elite level existences. It is no use to gain experience. It is better to leave those demons to the ordinary elite Blood Elves to finish off. The demon soldiers rushing in the front and the middle suddenly found that the magic falling on their heads was much sparse. Confused, they looked up at the sky, only to find that the number of magics remained the same, but most of them fell behind them. Looking back along the point where the magics fell, the demons found the demons that were running away. As for the long-haired demon that ran away at the beginning and the few demons that reacted quickly, they had already disappeared. This discovery made the demons fighting hard in the front furious. Well, you bunch of mibberbugs, a disgusting and dirty bug in the demon world, usually used to curse between demons. We fought desperately in the front, and you ran away without saying a word. The most important thing is that you didn't ask us to run away with you. The battle with the Blood Elves was so frustrating that even the hot-tempered demons would feel powerless. As for the most manic demons, they had already rushed to the feet of the mountain giants or the paws of the earth bear without knowing whether to live or die, and turned into a pool of meat paste. After discovering that the demons in the rear were running away, the whole demon army began to be uneasy. Without the great demon King Piccolo, the demon generals were also shrouded in the demon world, and the demons on the field no longer had anyone who could command the overall situation. Following the herd mentality, almost all the demons quickly turned around and ran away, and under the Blood Elves' unsatisfied attacks, they quickly turned into a rout. Chapter 430, Pursuit. Anyone who has experienced war knows that, if there is a group of soldiers running away in the army and there is no strong commander to stop them, it will soon turn into a rout of the entire army. Now, both the 3 demon generals and the great demon king Piccolo are trapped in the demon domain, and the demons on the field do not have a commander who can convince the crowd. Therefore, after the demon soldiers discovered the escape of the demons in the rear, they quickly lost their will to fight and chose to escape together. Although demons are not human, they also have a herd mentality. What's more, the whole army is running away. Even if there are a few demons who want to fight to the death, they are all swept away by the large army and start to run away. If you really don't know how to live or die and continue to rush forward, you may even be killed by your own people because you block the escape path of other demons. Under such circumstances, it is not surprising that there are still about 2,000 demon troops starting to rout. Seeing that the demons that had been attacking their own camp unremittingly retreated like a tide, the Blood Elves first breathed a sigh of relief and then became excited. Compared to the previous situation, where they had to worry about whether the demons would break through the defense line and threaten their homes and the Great Sun, well, the current situation couldn't be better. The demon soldiers who were fleeing with all their heart could serve as a better target than before. Relying on the characteristics of the magic saving skills and the passive and active mana recovery of the Blood Elf witches, all Blood Elf magicians did not fall into a situation of lack of mana. A large number of Blood Elf magicians cast magic with more energy than before, harvesting the lives of the fleeing demons. As melee units, the sword dancers and bloody knights had to work harder. After working hard to block the previous demon offensive, they now had to take the initiative to chase the fleeing demon soldiers. Fortunately, the Blood Elf witch troops, which had been busy restoring the magic power of a large number of Blood Elf magicians, or limiting the occasional demons that broke through the defense line, also freed up their hands at this time and began to cast deceleration spells on the demon troops. The Blood Elf witch's deceleration skill is very powerful and can directly cut down the enemy's movement speed. Especially those elite Blood Elf witches, when they raise their hands, they can decelerate a group of demons, greatly reducing the movement speed of all demons in a small area. When the front has entered a melee, most ordinary Blood Elf witches can hardly do anything. The deceleration skill does not have much effect when the enemy is close in the positional battle. Only the elite Blood Elf witches can use the sheep transformation to limit some enemies with strong momentum and restore the magic value of friendly forces, which can make a great contribution. However, when the enemy starts to escape, and the positional battle becomes a pursuit battle, the role played by the Blood Elf witch cannot be ignored. The cooling of the deceleration skill is very fast. Every 10 seconds, a demon will fall into a state where the movement speed is halved for half a minute, which makes them who are trying to escape very troubled. Moreover, the casting distance of the deceleration skill is not very short. Most Blood Elf witches choose to apply the deceleration effect to the demons running in the front. In this way, although most demons cannot be taken care of for the time being, it can still play a role in slowing down the escape speed of the entire demon army. As the Blood Elf witches worked hard to cast deceleration, the melee units of the Blood Elves also began to pursue the demons with the blessing of the priests. The one rushing in the front was the fast-moving Blood Knight unit. The entire Blood Knight unit formed an arrow-shaped charge formation, with the Lancers and the only Blood Fury Knight Zinjali as the arrowhead. Originally, Euphony was going to let these knights come out to give the demons a fatal blow in the final counter-attack, but he didn't expect the situation on the field to change rapidly, and the demons were defeated so quickly. Fortunately, the Blood Knight unit was ready to attack to defend their homeland at any time. Under Euphony's command, they were not caught off guard and quickly lined up to pursue the demons. Although the Lancers at the front had activated the enhanced hot-blooded charge skill, they also deliberately slowed down their speed so as not to be out of touch with the other knights who only had general charge skills. Behind the cavalry unit were all the sword dancers, who could cause damage to multiple targets at the same time, and were an excellent unit to harvest the lives of enemies in a melee. Because the demons fleeing in front were slowed down by a large number of deceleration skills, the demons that were originally charging in the front and now fell behind were blocked by these friendly forces whose speed was slowed down to the normal speed. Even if they could be ruthless and kill the demons blocking the way, it would be difficult for them to break free for a while, because the deceleration spell had a wide range. The charging Scarlet Knights, with just one enemy with its back facing them, fully demonstrated their strength in a messy situation where no one launched a counterattack or tried to interrupt the cavalry's charge. After a long charge, the damage of the Scarlet Knights was greatly enhanced, and the damage of the lancers who started the hot-blooded charge was more than doubled. After breaking into the demon troops who had no intention of resisting, the long spears in the hands of the cavalry penetrated the bodies of the demons one by one, turning them into their own experience. The damage bonus of the cavalry after the charge was only once, and then the Scarlet Knights could only attack with their own attributes. Only a few lancers activated the spear thrust skill again, continuing to cause considerable damage. However, although the effect of the charge was only one round, it also caused 300 or 400 casualties to the fleeing demons. Zingili, who had activated the Blood Rage state, rode alone and pierced through the bodies of more than 10 demons, with remarkable results. After the cavalry charge, it was time for the sword dancers to show their strength. The agile sword dancers quickly broke into the demon army, using their double swords, slashing and even the characteristics of constant sword dance, to cause a lot of damage to the enemy. The elite sword dancers rushed faster than the bloody knights, relying on the leaping flash skill to flash directly into the demon team, and relying on the constant sword dance state to slaughter the demons around them. Unlike ordinary sword dancers who still need to worry about being injured by the demon's counterattack, the elite sword dancers are all masters of swordsmanship. The existence of the sword curtain skill allows them to easily block the possible counterattacks of the demons and devote themselves to killing. The elite blood elf priests also specially applied bloodlust and soul fire to these sword masters, so that their output capacity was brought to an extreme. Although the hundreds of sword dancers did not cause as much damage as the cavalry troops that were blessed by the charge at the beginning, the results they achieved later were much greater than those of the cavalry. Some ordinary sword dancers even directly advanced in the battle and became elite sword dancers, slaughtering the fleeing demons faster. However, relatively speaking, the cavalry's defense is stronger, and they did not suffer any losses in front of some demons who fought back because they could not escape smoothly, while the sword dancers, whose armor was so low that it was almost gone, had already suffered some damage. This made Eupheny feel a little sad. It is still more convenient to use the Night Elf archers. Although the archers may be lower than the sword dancers in output, in terms of safety and firepower suppression, the archers are more cost effective. This was a tailwind pursuit battle, and a small number of sword dancers were lost. If it was in a more tragic war, I'm afraid that only half of the sword dancers would be left after a battle. Of course, the casualties they can cause are definitely greater than their own losses. On the battlefield, the elite sword dancers who are at ease and the ordinary sword dancers who are constantly injured or even dead form a sharp contrast. Thinking of the gap between the elite blood elf troops and the ordinary and elite troops and the rest of the blood elf witches, priests and scarlet knights, Eupheny had an epiphany. The blood elves, as a race, may not be able to mass produce troops on a large scale like the night elves. Chapter 431, Pursuit. Anyone who has experienced war knows that, if there is a group of soldiers running away in the army and there is no strong commander to stop them, it will soon turn into a rout of the entire army. Now, both the 3 demon generals and the great demon king Piccolo are trapped in the demon domain, and the demons on the field do not have a commander who can convince the crowd. Therefore, after the demon soldiers discovered the escape of the demons in the rear, they quickly lost their will to fight and chose to escape together. Although demons are not human, they also have a herd mentality. What's more, the whole army is running away. Even if there are a few demons who want to fight to the death, they are all swept away by the large army and start to run away. If you really don't know how to live or die and continue to rush forward, you may even be killed by your own people because you block the escape path of other demons. Under such circumstances, it is not surprising that there are still about 2,000 demon troops starting to rout. Seeing that the demons that had been attacking their own camp unremittingly retreated like a tide, the Blood Elves first breathed a sigh of relief and then became excited. Compared to the previous situation, where they had to worry about whether the demons would break through the defense line and threaten their homes and the Great Sun, well, the current situation couldn't be better. The demon soldiers who were fleeing with all their heart could serve as a better target than before. Relying on the characteristics of the magic saving skills and the passive and active mana recovery of the Blood Elf witches, all Blood Elf magicians did not fall into a situation of lack of mana. A large number of Blood Elf magicians cast magic with more energy than before, harvesting the lives of the fleeing demons. As melee units, the Sword Dancers and Bloody Knights had to work harder. After working hard to block the previous demon offensive, they now had to take the initiative to chase the fleeing demon soldiers. Fortunately, the Blood Elf witch troops, which had been busy restoring the magic power of a large number of Blood Elf magicians, or limiting the occasional demons that broke through the defense line, also freed up their hands at this time and began to cast deceleration spells on the demon troops. The Blood Elf witch's deceleration skill is very powerful and can directly cut down the enemy's movement speed. Especially those elite Blood Elf witches, when they raise their hands, they can decelerate a group of demons, greatly reducing the movement speed of all demons in a small area. When the front has entered a melee, most ordinary Blood Elf witches can hardly do anything. The deceleration skill does not have much effect when the enemy is close in the positional battle. Only the elite Blood Elf witches can use the sheep transformation to limit some enemies with strong momentum and restore the magic value of friendly forces, which can make a great contribution. However, when the enemy starts to escape, and the positional battle becomes a pursuit battle, the role played by the Blood Elf witch cannot be ignored. The cooling of the deceleration skill is very fast. Every 10 seconds, a demon will fall into a state where the movement speed is halved for half a minute, which makes them who are trying to escape very troubled. Moreover, the casting distance of the deceleration skill is not very short. Most Blood Elf witches choose to apply the deceleration effect to the demons running in the front. In this way, although most demons cannot be taken care of for the time being, it can still play a role in slowing down the escape speed of the entire demon army. As the Blood Elf witches worked hard to cast deceleration, the melee units of the Blood Elves also began to pursue the demons with the blessing of the priests. The one rushing in the front was the fast-moving Blood Knight unit. The entire Blood Knight unit formed an arrow-shaped charge formation, with the Lancers and the only Blood Fury Knight Zinjali as the arrowhead. Originally, Yufei was going to let these knights come out to give the demons a fatal blow in the final counter-attack, but he didn't expect the situation on the field to change rapidly, and the demons were defeated so quickly. Fortunately, the Blood Knight unit was ready to attack to defend their homeland at any time. Under Yufei's command, they were not caught off guard and quickly lined up to pursue the demons. Although the Lancers at the front had activated the enhanced hot-blooded charge skill, they also deliberately slowed down their speed so as not to be out of touch with the other knights who only had general charge skills. Behind the cavalry unit were all the Sword Dancers, who could cause damage to multiple targets at the same time, and were an excellent unit to harvest the lives of enemies in a melee. Because the demons fleeing in front were slowed down by a large number of deceleration skills, the demons that were originally charging in the front and now fell behind were blocked by these friendly forces whose speed was slowed down to the normal speed. Even if they could be ruthless and kill the demons blocking the way, it would be difficult for them to break free for a while, because the deceleration spell had a wide range. The charging Scarlet Knights, with just one enemy with its back facing them, fully demonstrated their strength in a messy situation where no one launched a counterattack or tried to interrupt the cavalry's charge. After a long charge, the damage of the Scarlet Knights was greatly enhanced, and the damage of the Lancers who started the hot-blooded charge was more than doubled. After breaking into the demon troops who had no intention of resisting, the long spears in the hands of the cavalry penetrated the bodies of the demons one by one, turning them into their own experience. The damage bonus of the cavalry after the charge was only once, and then the Scarlet Knights could only attack with their own attributes. Only a few Lancers activated the spear thrust skill again, continuing to cause considerable damage. However, although the effect of the charge was only one round, it also caused 300 or 400 casualties to the fleeing demons. Zingili, who had activated the blood rage state, rode alone and pierced through the bodies of more than 10 demons, with remarkable results. After the cavalry charge, it was time for the sword dancers to show their strength. The agile sword dancers quickly broke into the demon army, using their double swords, slashing and even the characteristics of constant sword dance, to cause a lot of damage to the enemy. The elite sword dancers rushed faster than the bloody knights, relying on the leaping flash skill to flash directly into the demon team, and relying on the constant sword dance state to slaughter the demons around them. Unlike ordinary sword dancers who still need to worry about being injured by the demon's counterattack, the elite sword dancers are all masters of swordsmanship. The existence of the sword curtain skill allows them to easily block the possible counterattacks of the demons, and devote themselves to killing. The elite blood elf priests also specially applied bloodlust and soul fire to these sword masters, so that their output capacity was brought to an extreme. Although the hundreds of sword dancers did not cause as much damage as the cavalry troops that were blessed by the charge at the beginning, the results they achieved later were much greater than those of the cavalry. Some ordinary sword dancers even directly advanced in the battle, and became elite sword dancers, slaughtering the fleeing demons faster. However, relatively speaking, the cavalry's defense is stronger, and they did not suffer any losses in front of some demons, who fought back, because they could not escape smoothly, while the sword dancers, whose armor was so low, that it was almost gone, had already suffered some damage. This made Eupheny feel a little sad. It is still more convenient to use the Night Elf archers. Although the archers may be lower than the sword dancers in output, in terms of safety and firepower suppression, the archers are more cost effective. This was a tailwind pursuit battle, and a small number of sword dancers were lost. If it was in a more tragic war, I'm afraid that only half of the sword dancers would be left after a battle. Of course, the casualties they can cause are definitely greater than their own losses. On the battlefield, the elite sword dancers who are at ease and the ordinary sword dancers who are constantly injured, or even dead, form a sharp contrast. Thinking of the gap between the elite blood elf troops and the ordinary and elite troops and the rest of the blood elf witches, priests and scholar knights, Eupheny had an epiphany. The blood elves, as a race, may not be able to mass produce troops on a large scale like the night elves. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432, Alone and Wimpy. Compared with the Night Elves, who have strong long-range strength, and can form powerful firepower after large-scale mass attacks, although the Blood Elves also have Blood Elf magicians and other arms with powerful long-range firepower, the magic value is a major problem that limits their output. Blood Elf witches with the mana source skill are all elite, which is in short supply for a large number of Blood Elf magicians. After measuring the skills and strengths of various arms of the Blood Elves at different levels, Eupheny believes that the Blood Elves should tend to take the elite route. In terms of melee arms, elite sword dancers can be called masters of swordsmanship. They are far different from ordinary elite sword dancers in output, and their defense and flexibility have also been significantly improved. The Blood Knight troops are better. The elite Blood Knights have each had a good change. Lancers and shield cavalry have both been greatly enhanced in attack and defense. However, compared with the elite Blood Rage Knights and Shelter Knights, Lancers and shield cavalry are nothing. As for the ranged troops, the elite Blood Elf magicians not only have the random limits of chaos spells, attack, and defense raised to higher level magic, but also have their own exclusive range attack magic, and their output capacity will become very strong. The elite Blood Elf witches and priests will also have this significant improvement compared to the previous two levels, especially the enhancement of the Blood Elf witches. Not only will the deceleration skill become a group deceleration, but they will also have the mana source skill that can be called the lifeblood of the Blood Elf magician. It can be said that a Blood Elf unit composed entirely of elite units is more powerful than a Blood Elf unit composed of 10 times the number of ordinary elite units. Therefore, compared to expanding the number of troops, what should be done is to improve the level of the existing troops. If the current 4,000 or so Blood Elf troops are all elite, tens of thousands of demons will be just a dish in front of them. Under the pursuit of the melee troops and the bombing of the Blood Elf magician troops, the fleeing demons were not able to escape successfully like the demons that slipped away at the beginning, and almost all of them were left behind. Seeing that the battle here was already decided, Yufei ordered the Blood Elf troops who had just experienced the battle not to stop for a moment, and continue to march towards the other two directions of the Blood Mountain. Although the demon troops there did not have a strong desire to attack, if they did not eat the mobile experience packs that came to their door, wouldn't it be a shame for them to travel thousands of miles? Yufei, who had already decided to train all the Blood Elf troops to elite level, would not let go of those demons who did not seem to be in the same group as the Great Demon King Piccolo, commanding the Blood Elf troops to launch a counterattack against the demons on the other two sides. Yufei divided part of his attention to the situation in the demon realm. The Great Demon King Piccolo and a group of demons in the demon realm were naturally unaware of the fleeing of the demons outside and the pursuit of the Blood Elves. Time had passed for a while, and the battle situation in the demon realm gradually became clear. Although the Great Demon King Piccolo was powerful, Illidan was not weaker than him at all, or even stronger, with the bonus of various equipment. The battle between the two had always been in a state where Illidan had a slight advantage. But overall, the situation is more unfavorable for Illidan. After all, the demon transformation has a duration. Although the demon form can be prolonged by killing demons, the demon soldiers that can be easily killed in the demon realm are almost dead. After the hundreds of Piccolo creatures hatched from the white eggs spit out by the Great Demon King joined the battle, it became unrealistic to rely on the power of the demon realm to kill the nearly 1000 demons. In this way, after Illidan's demon transformation is terminated, he may not be able to maintain a slightly suppressed situation with the Great Demon King. Although it is not to say that he will lose, he will definitely be at a disadvantage. No, he must make changes. Illidan himself knows that this will not work. After all, he is equivalent to fighting 1 against 1,000. This is not the weak human soldiers in the world of Veslays. The strength of each demon is not weak, not to mention that there are 3 legendary demon generals and hundreds of Piccolo among them. If Illidan had not initiated a close combat with Piccolo, freeing up the Set's Hellbringer puppet, which caused many casualties to the demons, the situation would have been even worse. After thinking for a while, Illidan feinted his warblade to force Piccolo away, then quickly jumped away and stopped fighting with Piccolo. Piccolo, who was fighting with him, was stunned for a moment. What happened? Why did he suddenly retreat when he was having a great time? Piccolo was also a battle maniac. Although he became a demon king, he still had the strong desire to fight like the demons. Although he was slightly at a disadvantage in the battle with Illidan, he still felt refreshed. But Illidan's next move made him furious. Illidan, who retreated, did not prepare a big move to decide the outcome as he imagined, but instead set his battle target on the large number of demons. After posing a mysterious posture, Illidan activated the reflection skill. Instantly, a shadow appeared behind every demon, analog, and even Piccolo himself in the demon domain, and launched a fierce attack on their respective bodies. Although the reflection skill is mapped according to the strength of the target, and an attack of the same level is launched, it is only an ordinary attack after all. For legendary and epic demons, this kind of attack can be discovered in advance and easily blocked. However, ordinary demons do not have the spur of the moment ability of legendary and above. Most of them are focused on fighting the demon puppets in front of them and guarding against the flying black weapons. Even some analogs suffered a great loss under the reflection skill. While most of the demons were injured, Illidan quickly retracted the warblade and turned on the long-range attack mode again, harvesting the lives of ordinary demons in the domain. If he did not do this, the demon's transformation state would end in a while. The angry Piccolo wanted to entangle Illidan and continue fighting him. However, the demon realm was Illidan's home ground after all. The entanglement of demonic auras and the interference of black weapons made it difficult for Piccolo to chase Illidan, who was constantly moving and attacking his subordinates. He could only watch Illidan kill those ordinary demons one by one. But ordinary demons are limited after all. The strength of Piccolo-like demons is relatively strong, and Illidan can't solve them quickly. The demons covered in the demon realm were the elites who rushed to the front before, including 3 legendary demon generals. After a period of delay, Illidan who was unable to kill the remaining 100 elite demons and hundreds of Piccolo-like demons under the protection of Piccolo, could only interrupt his demon form helplessly. However, Illidan's mission has been completed. Outside the demon realm, the troops under Piccolo have been slaughtered, and even the Beetle Demon King's troops retreated after some of them were killed. The Beetle Demon King, who was dragged here by the Great Demon King, saw that the Blood Elves were strong, and he led his already damaged troops to retreat directly. The killing of a large number of demons brought about the promotion of a large number of Blood Elves. Of course, most of them were promoted from ordinary level to elite level. The experience required between the elite level and the elite level is relatively large, and only some lucky ones can be promoted. These are all what Ufei likes to hear, but they have nothing to do with the Great Demon King Piccolo. After the demon domain disappeared, the situation outside also came into his eyes. After a little sensing, the Great Demon King Piccolo found the corpses of demons all over the ground. Could it be that the Black Barrier also has the ability to change the speed of time? It seems that I haven't fought in it for a long time. How come I find myself becoming a lonely man as soon as I come out? Looking at the remaining hundreds of demons under his command, the Great Demon King Piccolo felt like crying, but had no tears. Chapter 433, The End of the Road. This time, he really lost more than he gained. This was the only thought in Piccolo's mind. Originally, he wanted to come to the Bloody Mountain, to explore and obtain the possible benefits here, to enhance his strength and power. By the way, he also wanted to avenge his subordinates who had been killed in the Bloody Mountain before. But what he didn't expect was that although there were things on the Bloody Mountain that could enhance their power, such as the obelisk he saw, the strength of the Blood Elves was far beyond Piccolo's expectations. Apart from anything else, Illidan's existence was enough to surprise him. Epic demons will be named Demon Kings, and the most powerful among the Demon Kings, who have reached the peak of epic power, will be called Great Demon Kings. Piccolo is a powerful demon of this level. Otherwise, he would not have a Demon King as his subordinate. In a large area nearby, Piccolo can be regarded as the #1 master. Among the hundreds of demon cities on the land of Wuilan, the city built by Piccolo can also be ranked among the top 10. However, Piccolo, who was always very confident in his own strength, never expected to meet a strong man of the same level in this corner of Bloody Mountain. In the battle in the demon realm, if it weren't for his subordinates and the weird demon named Piccolo, who was derived from the ability to spit eggs, he would definitely not be the opponent. Piccolo was right. If he was the only enemy in the demon realm, Illidan could naturally mobilize all the demon aura to deal with him. At that time, he would not have a slight advantage, but completely suppress him. However, without the demons that were constantly killed, the duration of Illidan's demon transformation would become very short. In short, Piccolo suffered a great loss this time. He was trapped in the demon realm and could not effectively command the demon troops outside, resulting in the experience of thousands of demons turning into Blood Elves. And when he entered the demon realm, he only saved more than 100 elite demons. In the end, Illidan's demon realm was lifted when the duration was up, so he was able to escape. Although those hundreds of analogs are powerful, they are not real demons, but only summoned creatures, and they will die automatically after a period of time. Otherwise, it is impossible for Great Demon King Piccolo to use egg spitting only when fighting, but to maintain hundreds of powerful analogs. In other words, the demon city of Piccolo, which originally had nearly 10,000 demons, now only has Great Demon King Piccolo himself, the remaining 100 demons, and a few demons left in the demon city. Originally, he came to the Bloody Mountain to strengthen his power and gain benefits, but after a big battle, he did not get any benefits, and only 100 of his subordinates died. This made Great Demon King Piccolo feel like a hero's end. The most important thing is that the Beetle Demon King he forcibly invited cheated him and retreated directly. If the Beetle Demon King himself and the more than 6,000 demons under his command also fought hard, even if these Blood Elves were strong, they would be overwhelmed. Moreover, in the Blood Elf camp, Piccolo didn't sense any aura of the same level except Illidan, so the Beetle King could run rampant. This time, he must destroy that guy who pretends to obey but disobeys. Piccolo was furious. If he had known the situation would be like this, He might as well have brought the Demon King under his command, so that he wouldn't be in such a miserable situation now. But the problem now is that, let alone how to deal with the Beetle King, Piccolo himself might not be able to escape unscathed this time. Previously, Illidan alone was able to resist Piccolo and many of his men. Now, although the demon domain has disappeared, they need to face thousands of blood elves. In the previous battle, because of Piccolo's 2 attacks and the subsequent close combat, the blood elves also lost about 500 soldiers. Among them, except for the evil beam bullets and magic light killing cannons of the great Demon King Piccolo, that killed 200 blood elf magicians and a total of about 100 blood elf witches and priests. The remaining losses were almost all sword dancers, and only a few blood knights and sword dancers died in the counterattack of the demons who had no hope of escape. However, although the sword dancers suffered heavy losses, almost all of the survivors were promoted to the elite level, and even the elite sword dancers increased by about 10. Rushing to the front to kill is the most dangerous, but it can also gain the most experience. Because of the retreat of the Beetle Demon King, the 1,000 blood elves defending on the other 2 sides also returned to the front battlefield. Now in front of the great Demon King Piccolo, there are a full 3,500 blood elves staring at him covetously. Although the number is 1/8 less, the strength of these 3,500 blood elves is stronger than before. Many blood elves have been promoted in previous battles, which greatly improves their own strength. They are fewer in number, and have become more elite. 100 versus 3,500. Even though the hundreds of Piccolo he spat out would not disappear for a while, Piccolo could not see any chance of winning. Although an epic peak powerhouse like him could change the situation in an ordinary battle, even in a war of tens of thousands of people, this could only be done when the enemy did not have a powerhouse of the same level. Moreover, the wars in the demon realm and the S-laser world were completely different, and the demons were all quite powerful. Otherwise, the demon kings would not have to build a city to maintain their supreme position. These thousands of blood elves were able to destroy demons that outnumbered themselves, and were naturally more powerful than ordinary demon troops. Even Piccolo would be terrified by the front of such an army, not to mention Illidan, a demon hunter who was as powerful as him. Now Piccolo was full of regrets. A great change had occurred in Blood Mountain, and even if the other demon kings could endure for a while, they would definitely investigate soon. Why did he have to be the first to do so? Originally, he thought that he could take advantage of the fact that some of his men had been killed in Blood Mountain, and his own strength in the nearby area, so that he could take advantage of the possible benefits from the Blood Mountain incident, but he did not expect that the benefits did exist, but the danger was even greater. The great Demon King Piccolo would never have thought that he would fall into such a desperate situation. Looking at the more than 100 elite demons surrounding him, his eyes revealed a ruthless look. If it doesn't work, he will use these more than 100 men as a scapegoat in exchange for his smooth escape. As long as he, a powerful demon king, still exists, it is only a matter of time for the Piccolo Demon City to recover. He had protected them with all his heart in the Black Enchantment before, and now it is time for them to be loyal. In the demon realm, ordinary demons have all died, and the more than 100 demons from Shanghai are all above the gold level. The only thing that made the great Demon King regretful was that a legendary demon general was killed by the puppet of the Set's Hell Messenger. Even now that he was thinking about escaping, the great Demon King Piccolo was still planning to take the remaining 2 demon generals with him. Legendary level is also an extremely precious combat power in the demon world. It should be mentioned that the demon general who was caught off guard and beaten half to death by 10 connected obelisks could not escape the fate of death after all. When the demon army was fleeing, naturally no one would care about the unconscious demon general, and in the end he was killed by a lancer. And this lancer was promoted to a Blood Fury Knight, which was considered not to waste the large amount of experience provided by a legendary demon. Having made a decision in his heart, the great Demon King Piccolo remained calm on the surface, and did not let his demons see that he wanted to sacrifice them. While the existence of the analog Piccolo was still a while, he actually took the initiative to attack, and continued to fight with the Blood Elves. This behavior was far beyond Euphenia's expectations. He originally thought that Piccolo would choose to flee immediately after seeing the situation clearly. He had already ordered Illidan to keep Piccolo. Unexpectedly, Piccolo chose to continue fighting. Could this guy still be a demon with blood? Chapter 434, Death of Piccolo. As for the bloodiness, Piccolo naturally has it. In other words, the most common demons with violent personalities are not short of bloodiness. Although there are some cunning and treacherous demons, most demons are keen on fighting. Otherwise, Piccolo would not have been excited at the beginning, because he encountered Illidan, a strong man of the same level. But excitement is excitement, and bloodiness is bloodiness. These are emotions that will only be derived when you have an advantage, or are evenly matched. Now that his life may not be saved, Piccolo has no desire to fight. Yuffie, whose mental power covers the surroundings, quickly noticed Piccolo's wandering eyes, and realized that he still overestimated this Demon King. As an epic Demon King, the lifespan of demons is generally much longer than that of ordinary races. The longer the lifespan, the more precious it will be. Unfortunately, even if he sacrificed his subordinates in exchange for his chance to escape, the possibility of Piccolo surviving is still very small. Apart from anything else, Illidan alone could entangle the great Demon King Piccolo, making it difficult for him to evacuate. As for the hundreds of elite demons and hundreds of Piccolo-like demons, Yuffie didn't even take them seriously. The Blood Elf troops, whose strength had increased a lot, could easily deal with the pitiful number of enemies. Without giving the great Demon King Piccolo any chance, the Blood Elf magician troops still cast magic crazily without sparing their magic power even when facing only a few hundred enemies. Although the battle has continued until now, the magic value of each Blood Elf magician is not much left, but because of the feature of the magic saving technique, they only need to consume half of their magic value to cast magic, and the remaining magic power is enough to kill these hundreds of demons. As for the melee units, there is no need to take action at all. The elite Blood Elf magicians no longer jointly cast large-scale group attack magic. In the current safe situation, it is better to distribute the experience to the ordinary elite level troops. Seeing that the firepower of the Blood Elf magicians was all focused on the demon minions and the analog Piccolo that he had released, the great Demon King was delighted. But soon, he smiled bitterly again. Because Illidan, who had left his demon form, had come to him. Although Illidan in his normal form was not as powerful as when he was in his demon form, he only had to face the great Demon King Piccolo now, instead of fighting 1 against 1,000 like before. Therefore, Illidan was not afraid of the powerful opponent, the great Demon King Piccolo. Speaking of which, he was more skilled and smooth in his normal form. He started with a burning mana, and the mysterious green ray hit the great Demon King Piccolo unavoidably, burning off some of his magic power and vitality, causing the corners of the great Demon King Piccolo's mouth to twitch. The great Demon King Piccolo was extremely troubled by Illidan, this opponent. In previous battles, he had been attacked by mana burning many times, and he also understood that this green ray could not be easily avoided or blocked, and he could only endure it. And the attacks he launched, even the unexpected eye rays and mouth light bullets, were dodged by Illidan in 8 or 9 out of 10 cases. What puzzled the great Demon King Piccolo was that sometimes his attacks had already hit Illidan, but they disappeared without a trace in a strange twist of the air, and failed to cause any damage to Illidan. This situation that made the great Demon King Piccolo unable to understand was naturally the performance of Illidan's dodge skill taking effect. As for the life recovery speed bonus and attack speed bonus brought by the passive skill frenzy, it was not so obvious, because in the demon world, almost all creatures have strong regeneration abilities. The reflection skill is difficult to work on the strong at the same level, and Illidan can only rely on the 2 skills of mana burning and dodge. Of course, sacrifice is always turned on. The green sacrificial flames burning around Illidan made Piccolo quite afraid. Unlike ordinary attacks, the injured parts will recover quickly if the burned parts are burned by the sacrificial flames for a period of time. The recovery ability of the burned parts will be reduced to a point where it almost disappears. After suffering a loss, Piccolo was very careful not to fight Illidan for a long time, letting the sacrificial flames burn himself. As for Illidan, it was not so easy. Without the attribute bonus of the demon transformation, Illidan could no longer suppress Piccolo when fighting against thousands of people. When Piccolo did not hesitate to release skills such as the magic light cannon, Illidan had to be very careful. If the battle continued like this, it would be hard to say who would win and who would lose between Piccolo and Illidan. The sacrifice was always on, which consumed a lot of mana. However, there was an elite blood elf witch who was restoring Illidan's mana from a distance, allowing him to maintain the state of sacrifice. She also released a mana burn from time to time to interfere with Piccolo. Piccolo's energy seemed endless, and his magic light cannon and evil beam bombs never stopped. If Illidan was not an agile hero and had the magical skill of dodging, he would have been hit many times. But the battle between the two epic strongmen on the scene was not the core. More than 100 elite demons and hundreds of Piccolo-like demons were quickly dealt with by the Blood Elves. Even the two legendary demon generals that Piccolo could not bear to give up died in the joint attack of a group of magicians, which made many Blood Elf magicians rise to the elite level. Although fighting with Illidan, Piccolo also divided some of his energy to observe the surrounding situation, and at the same time, he was always looking for opportunities to escape. When seeing all his men dead, Piccolo felt a chill in his heart and had a bad feeling. Looking at Illidan, who was still fighting with him vigorously, and the Blood Elves who focused all their attention on him, Piccolo suddenly had some enlightenment. This time, he who had been dominating the world for hundreds of years might really fall here. Under Illidan's entanglement, Piccolo had no chance to escape. Eupheli naturally did not have any sense of honor as a warrior, and finally let the Blood Elf troops start to fight Piccolo, the big boss. In the end, the power displayed by Piccolo made Eupheli marvel. He activated all his strength, and the energy bombs almost covered the area of 100 meters around him without interruption, bombing continuously. Even with a large number of magicians using chaos spells, defense, the Blood Elf troops were still damaged a lot under Piccolo's desperate attack. Even Illidan was injured in Piccolo's final madness. In Eupheli's opinion, Piccolo at full strength was not much different from Nicholas the Great, who was once surrounded and killed by the Night Elves. However, no matter how strong he was, Piccolo, who was not good at speed, eventually fell under countless magic, arrows and Illidan's sword. However, when he was dying, Piccolo cast a curse like a last-ditch effort, which turned into a hideous demon tattoo printed on Illidan, who gave him the last blow. And this curse could not be eliminated even by the magic destroyer. After checking Illidan's attribute panel, Eupheli understood why the magic destroyer could not exorcise this curse. Demon public enemy. This unit exudes an aura that disgusts demon creatures all the time, which can easily arouse the hostility of demons. At the same time, the damage this unit receives from demon creatures increases by 100%, and the damage caused to demon creatures increases by 100%. The specific attributes of this curse have both negative and beneficial states, so it cannot be exorcised. Illidan was originally a demon hunter, and he had a damage bonus to demons. After being in this state, his damage to demons would reach a terrifying level, which fully justified his title of demon hunter. Of course, the negative effects could not be ignored, and doubling the damage was also a very troublesome attribute. Chapter 435 The Coming Crisis. Fortunately, the person who was cursed by the public enemy of the devil was Illidan. As an agile hero, it is not easy for the enemy to hit him. In group battles, he has the demon domain, and the attack must pass this level before it can land on him. When fighting alone with a strong man of the same level, the effect of the dodge skill that has been upgraded to level 4 will be reflected no matter how sudden the attack of the great demon king Piccolo was before. It was difficult to cause actual damage to Illidan. In practical terms, the constant curse that the great demon king Piccolo gave Illidan before his death is actually more beneficial than harmful. With this in mind, Eupheli no longer thought about how to remove the curse on Illidan. What is more troublesome for him now is how to deal with the sequelae of this battle. When his soul was divided into the sun well and created the earth-shaking scene, Eupheli expected that there was not much time left for the Blood Elves to develop. But he estimated that, even if the nearby demon forces came to investigate, they would have to wait at least 10 days or half a month to wait and see. After all, although Blood Mountain is very close to the range of the Abyssless Land, it is in the abandoned land after all. There should not be many demonic forces that can see the grandeur of the sun well when it is formed. After half a month or even longer, the demons will definitely make a few attempts before taking action. After a while, the Blood Elves can spare some time to develop in the test, and then delay in the subsequent battles, and it will come out in a few months. Give the Blood Elves a few months, Not to mention that they can develop to the strength of the Night Elves in the world of Slays. It is enough to make a difference in the demon world. But what Eupheny didn't expect was that a demon jumped out so quickly. That's right, the information obtained from the Blood Elf Elders shows that in the demon city near the abandoned land, the great demon king Piccolo is the most powerful force. Blood Mountain has killed some of the great demon king Piccolo before. Now that there is a huge change in Blood Mountain, it is not surprising that he would rush to investigate or die. However, the death of Piccolo was the end of everything, but it left a big problem for the Blood Elves. In addition to Piccolo, there was also a Beetle King who participated in the battle. But for some reason, the Beetle King and his subordinates did not have a strong desire to fight. After being killed by the Blood Elves, they retreated decisively. There were only about 5,000 troops left under the Beetle King. In addition, Illidan was tied up by Piccolo at that time. The Blood Elves did not have a strong man of the level of the Demon King, so they could only watch them retreat. The Beetle King retreated smoothly, and when he returned, he would definitely find that Piccolo did not escape. This famous Demon King and almost all of his troops within tens of thousands of miles were lost in the Blood Mountain, which would definitely cause a great shock to a large area around him. First of all, it is certain that Piccolo Demon City will collapse. Although there is still a Demon King there, those who are willing to serve the great Demon King Piccolo instead of building a demon city by themselves are naturally not very strong. The Demon King named Caesar is not even as strong as the Beetle Demon King. In addition, the demon soldiers of Piccolo Demon City died twice before and after, and almost all of them died on the Blood Mountain. The huge Piccolo Demon City, whether it is the strong or the troops, is not enough to maintain its original status. It won't be long before Piccolo Demon City will be occupied by other Demon Kings. Perhaps after the return of the Beetle Demon King, it will quietly occupy Piccolo Demon City. As for the city, where it was originally located, it is definitely not as well built as Piccolo Demon City, so just give up. But in addition to the reshuffle of forces, the Blood Elves will definitely be included in the eyes of all forces in this area. Perhaps the demons of the entire Wuhan land will gradually know the rise of the Blood Elves. After all, Piccolo is also a powerful demon with the title of Great Demon King, and it is impossible that his death will not cause some waves. Even the surrounding demon forces will join hands to attack the Blood Mountain. Compared to demons, Blood Elves are aliens, creatures completely different from demons. Even demons with different appearances and abilities can be classified as demons, but Blood Elves are aliens. Fortunately, I have issued an order to every Blood Elf to return to Blood Mountain as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the Battle of Blood Mountain spreads, the Blood Elves outside are likely to be slaughtered. The principle that those who are not of my kind must have different hearts is universal in any world. Perhaps being an alien is not enough to attract the surrounding demon forces, but the changes before Blood Mountain will become the reason why demons flock to this place. The status and strength of the Blood Elves before were at the bottom of the entire demon world. After a strange scene appeared on Blood Mountain, they were able to destroy the not so weak force of Piccolo Demon City, and even the powerful Demon King Piccolo fell on Blood Mountain. If you say that there is nothing on Blood Mountain, the dumbest demon will not believe it. Everyone wants to have stronger strength, and demons who are keen on fighting are no exception. You fairly can imagine that it won't be long before the aftermath of the destruction of Piccolo Demon City passes, and Bloody Mountain will face the attack of countless demons. At that time, even if Illidan goes all out, it will be impossible to stop 3 or 5 demon kings from attacking together, even if the other demon kings nearby are not as powerful as Piccolo Demon King. Time is running out. There should be a short period of stability next. It will take some time for the spread and fermentation of the battle in Bloody Mountain and the reshuffle of forces. But after that, Bloody Mountain will face a huge crisis. It would be great if the Sunwell could migrate like the ancient tree. Eupheny sighed in his heart. The Blood Elves troops are all very strong, but the only thing that makes him dissatisfied is that neither the Sunwell, the main board, nor other buildings can move freely like the various ancient trees of the Night Elves. If the buildings of the Blood Elves can be moved like the Night Elves, Eupheny doesn't mind that the entire Blood Elves find a place to hide and develop before the surrounding demons react. In Euphany's heart, he actually prefers to quietly farm in a place where no one pays attention and wait until his strength is strong enough to not fear any force in the world, and then come out to make trouble. Just like in the world of SLAs, he also developed the Night Elves to the limit of what he could develop with the resources he had at that time, and then began, or had to expand outward. Now, the Blood Elves will take a completely different path from the development process of the Night Elves. It is definitely impossible to develop in silence. Even if those military training buildings can be abandoned, the Sunwell cannot be moved or built again. What the Blood Elves can do is to grow rapidly between blood and fire, grow to a level that is strong enough to fight against the strongest forces in the demon world, and then find the heart of darkness for Yufei. After thinking this through, Yufei put down the burden in his heart. Although he prefers and is used to farming, there is no way out now. The Blood Elves are different from the Night Elves. They prefer the elite rather than the quantity. Perhaps they can grow faster in battle. Fortunately, there are more than 3,500 Blood Elves left in Scarlet Mountain, which is about 1/3 of the Blood Elves in the demon world. As the Blood Elves from other places gradually return under the call of Yufei's Sunwell, the strength of the Blood Elves will grow rapidly for a period of time. Compared with slowly training soldiers from the arms training building, it is much more convenient and faster to directly transform the original Blood Elves into arms. However, more than 10 arms training buildings have been built in one go, but they cannot be wasted. In the intervals of transforming the Blood Elves who have returned to Scarlet Mountain, the buildings must be put into production as soon as possible to train the Blood Elves. Well, in fact, the name of this chapter is also a true portrayal of the real life of the world. I have dropped out of school and stayed at home for more than 3 months without any achievement. My mother has mentioned more than once in the past few days that she wants to kick me out. If I really want to live alone, what can I do in Zion with 400 to 500 yuan a month? Chapter 436 Blood and Flesh Resources. Yufei was thinking in his heart that compared with the troops transformed from the native Blood Elves, the Blood Elves trained directly from the troops training building must be like the original Night Elves, lacking in wisdom. The troops transformed from the native Blood Elves, whether ordinary or elite, retain their original wisdom. At that time, we can consider putting the trained Blood Elves at the forefront. In addition to the fact that these units that only have combat awareness can be upgraded as soon as possible, they can exert stronger combat power and can also protect the transformed Blood Elf troops with complete wisdom. In the demon world, Yufei does not have as many heroes as he did in the world of Esraz. The only hero Illidan must fight with those demon kings when fighting against the demon forces, and he has no time to command the troops. In this case, it is impossible for the Blood Elves to fight smoothly like the Night Elves with only the command ability of many heroes. Fortunately, the troops transformed from the native Blood Elves have complete wisdom and can be used as officers. To put it simply, in the demon world, Yufei could only put aside the Night Elves' way of fighting, which relied only on heroes to command the battle, and return to the clearly defined command system of most armies. Each of the Blood Elves with complete wisdom will be a candidate for the future Blood Elf army, from the grassroots captain to the upper level officers. Of course, this is a system reform issue that will be considered only after the number of Blood Elves has grown sufficiently. What needs to be done now is to speed up the surge of soldiers as soon as possible and expand the number of Blood Elf troops. However, when it came to using the Blood Elf army training buildings to train soldiers, Yufei discovered the pitfalls of these buildings. After carefully understanding the needs of these buildings to train soldiers, Yufei had to announce that the large amount of wood resources he had was useless in the demon world. Fortunately, energy is universal, and the Blood Elves do not have to consider the problem of energy consumption. The pitfall of the Blood Elf army training buildings is that it does not consume wood to train soldiers here, but what it consumes is flesh and blood resources, which are much more difficult than wood resources. That's right, flesh and blood. When Yufei first saw the need to train Blood Elves, he thought he had seen it wrong. When did the elves become so bloody that training a soldier actually required the consumption of flesh and blood? But after careful thinking and speculation, Yufei understood this. Whether it is buildings or soldiers, the Night Elves consume wood in addition to the common energy units. This can be reflected in the Night Elves buildings and soldiers. For example, the buildings of the Night Elves are all built with ancient trees. Even the Hunter's Hall and the Elder's Altar are built with wood. It is understandable that a large amount of wood is consumed, and the need to consume wood for the training of the Night Elf soldiers is also well documented. In the continent of SYNOPSIS, the Night Elves did not exist. It can be said that this is a new race created by Ufei himself. As the ancestor of all trees, the core of the Night Elves created by Ufei is trees. It can be said that every Night Elf is a tree. The need to consume wood for training Night Elf soldiers is a manifestation of this statement. The Blood Elves are different. As a race that originally existed in the demon world, although their origin was the elves abducted by demons from the world of SYNOPSIS, they were also native elves of SYNOPSIS and had nothing to do with the Night Elves. The Blood Elves buildings, such as the Scarlet Barracks, the mysterious Holy Land, and even the magic tower buildings such as the obelisk, are almost all made of stone. Therefore, what is consumed in their construction is not wood but stone. Similarly, it is understandable that the Blood Elves, who have nothing to do with trees in essence, need to consume flesh and blood resources to train. Although Ufei was born as an ancient tree and now has all kinds of great powers, after becoming the sun well in the demon world, the law of conservation of energy must be observed. Training or creating Blood Elf soldiers who are flesh and blood life out of thin air must consume an equal amount of flesh and blood. After thinking through all this, Ufei realized that his previous idea of quietly farming in the demon world and then making a big splash was not feasible. Wood and stone are everywhere, but flesh and blood resources can only be obtained in large quantities in battles or even wars. If the Blood Elves want to develop, they must fight. Ufei let out a long breath, and only then did he truly strengthen his belief in facing a large number of demon attacks directly. Whether it is from the point of view that the Blood Elves need to take the route of elite soldiers, or that development requires flesh and blood resources, rising from the flames of war is the path that the Blood Elves must take. Don't think too much, it's important to train the troops first. Ufei concentrated his mind and began to carry out various instructions in an orderly manner. For the 3 types of training buildings, one building was specially reserved for the transformation of the Blood Elves who arrived at the Blood Mountain one after another. The rest were fully operational and began to train new Blood Elf units. As for flesh and blood resources, they are still enough for a short time. Aren't there thousands of demon corpses lying on the Blood Mountain at this time? These are all sources of flesh and blood resources. Unlike the stable acquisition of wood, in addition to the uncertain collection rate and time of flesh and blood resources, there is also a problem of the quality of the original resources. The stronger the corpse was during life, the higher the quality of the flesh and blood resources it could provide after death. Let's put it this way, for example, the corpse of the legendary demon general, because of its high quality, can provide hundreds of units of flesh and blood resources after being collected. And 1 unit of flesh and blood resources, with enough energy, can train the rest of the Blood Elf troops except the Bloody Knights. But in contrast, the flesh and blood resources that those demons with inferior strength can provide will also shrink accordingly. Perhaps a demon larger than an elephant can collect less than 1 unit of flesh and blood resources. Fortunately, the demons that invaded the big demon city are all strong. Together with the thousands of demons killed by the Beetle Demon King in the Bloody Mountain, a total of about 4,000 demon corpses provided 8,000 units of flesh and blood resources for the Blood Elves. As for why it was 4,000 instead of 4,000 brought by Great Demon King Piccolo plus 1,000 lost by Beetle Demon King, totaling 5,000, it was because about 1,000 demons died in Illidan's demon domain and were directly absorbed by the demon domain and turned into their own power, leaving no corpses. Among the 6 types of arms currently in the Blood Elves, except for the Bloody Knights, which require 2 units of blood and flesh resources to train, the rest of the arms only need to consume 1 unit of blood and flesh resources. After Ufei divided the 8,000 units of blood and flesh resources, they were put into different arms buildings. From the previous combat effectiveness, Ufei saw the power of the cavalry's neat charge. For example, the seriously injured legendary demon general was in a coma, but his physical strength was still there, and a lancer could penetrate his body and kill him after launching a hot-blooded charge, from which we can see the power of the cavalry charge. Therefore, in this allocation of flesh and blood resources, although the Blood Knights needed to consume 2 portions of flesh and blood resources, Ufei still chose to train 1,500 Blood Knights. He could imagine that after nearly 2000 or even more Blood Knights launched the charge skill together, they could bring huge damage and deterrence to the enemy. Of the remaining 5000 flesh and blood resources, 2000 were allocated to the Blood Elf magicians, the main firepower output arms of the Blood Elf clan. In the previous battle, the scene of magic flying all over the sky also left a deep impression on Yuffie. There are also 1000 units to train sword dancers, and then 500 units each of the Blood Elf priests, Blood Elf witches and magic destroyers. The remaining 500 units of flesh and blood resources were left behind for emergency use. It should be mentioned that Yuffie implemented the idea of training a Blood Elf witch for every 5 Blood Elf magicians or priests trained. The total number of Blood Elf magicians and priests planned to be trained this time is exactly 2500, which is exactly 5 times the number of Blood Elf witches. Chapter 437 Leveling and Traveling. In future battles, Yuffie will first upgrade the level of the Blood Elf witch. Although the output of melee arms such as the Blood Knight and the Sword Dancer among the Blood Elves cannot be underestimated, the main and more complete source of output is the Blood Elf magician. Moreover, the guarantee of safe output of melee units also comes from the Blood Elf priest's uninterrupted healing and status skills such as the Fire of the Heart and Bloodthirst. For example, in the previous battle with the demon army, if the Blood Elf priests had not rescued many magicians affected by the attack of the great demon King Piccolo and the sword dancers who were fighting the demons in close combat, the Blood Elves' losses would have doubled. However, whether it is the magic that the Blood Elf magician troops wantonly wield, or the healing and buff skills that the priests cast one after another, they can't avoid the problem of magic value. If the magic value is insufficient, both output and endurance are empty talk. The Blood Elf witch must be an elite witch to solve the problem of magic value. It can be said that the most core arms of the Blood Elves are not the Blood Knights with thousands of cavalry charging, nor the Blood Elf magicians with powerful magic firepower, but the Blood Elf witches. Now the number of magicians and priests in the Blood Elves is exactly 5 times that of witches. If all Blood Elf witches are elite, then the passive effect of the magic source can cover every magician and priest, and their magic recovery speed will be greatly improved. Not to mention the active effect of the magic source, which is a powerful effect that can allow magicians to have more rounds of killing and priests to have more rounds of treatment. With his thoughts turning, Yuffie paid attention to the demons in the abandoned land. If the level of Blood Elf witches is upgraded when the demon forces near the Blood Mountain in the land of Wuhan are settled and attack together, then the role of Blood Elf witches in the war will not be fully reflected. Although the effect of slowing down and even turning into sheep is powerful, the maximum ability of Blood Elf witches cannot be used unless they are elite. In order to prevent the Blood Elves from being destroyed and becoming stronger in the coming crisis, it is necessary to upgrade all the core Blood Elf witches to the elite level before the war. The demons in the Abyss Land are not to be considered. Although the route of letting the Blood Elves develop between blood and fire has been determined, Yuffie still hopes to be fully prepared before the demons invade. How can he take the initiative to provoke the nerves of those demons? In this case, the target can only be set on the non-Blood Elf forces in the abandoned land. Although the demons here are more than 1 level lower than those in the Abyss Land in terms of strength and number, it is definitely enough to provide less than 1000 Blood Elf witches with the experience they need. In addition, sweeping the abandoned land can also bring the blood and flesh resources needed by the Blood Elves. Of course, because the demons in the abandoned land are weak, the harvest will not be as rich as the previous battle. Do it when you think of it. All the mysterious holy places on the Bloody Mountain first train Blood Elf witches. As for priests and so on, the training order must be ranked later. After the planned 500 new Blood Elf witches were trained, Yuffie ordered the existing Blood Elf troops to take all the Blood Elf witches who had not reached the elite level to level up. And the ones who led or protected these Blood Elf witches were actually soldiers who had not reached the elite level. The Blood Elf witches had insufficient killing ability, so the experience gained naturally depended on other soldiers to let them finish off the wounds. But the last blow could only get half of the experience, and the rest of the experience could not be wasted. Of course, Yuffie was not at ease with the ordinary elite level soldiers. Although the creatures in the abandoned land were generally weak, who could say that a powerful force would not suddenly emerge? Therefore, most of the elite Night Elves were sent to serve as guards for the leveling team. Compared with those elite Blood Elves, whether it was the horned hippogriff knight who could fly in the air, the female hunter with strong mobility, or the claw druid who mastered advanced shaper shifting, they were all excellent candidates for guards. As for the mountain giants, they were excluded from the escort team because of the noise they made during their actions. In fact, it would be more appropriate to let Illidan be the nanny of the leveling team. But in Euphenia's plan, Illidan had other tasks to do, so the Night Elf team had to take on this responsibility. After the leveling team with the Blood Elf Witch as the core set off, Euphenia no longer paid attention to that place. With the strength of thousands of Blood Elves, if nothing unexpected happens, it is enough to sweep the abandoned land. After all, this is a place where losers will come. And if something unexpected happens, the Night Elf team is also enough to cover it, so there is no need to worry. What attracted Euphenia's attention now was the task that Illidan had to undertake. Since he descended to the demon world, Euphenia has been passively enduring the 2 attacks of the demons, passively becoming the Sunwell, and even passively transforming the Blood Elves who appeared. This made him, who advocated a complete plan in advance, very uncomfortable. Now, there was a short period of breathing time, and Euphenia thought about taking the initiative to attack. The information about the demon world obtained from the Blood Elf elders was only a rough outline. After all, living in the abandoned land, the Blood Elves could not get much information. The initiative fell on Illidan. The person assigned by Euphenia to Illidan was to leave the abandoned land and enter the Abyss Land to personally investigate the various situations in the demon world. Of course, it would be best to find out the news of the Heart of Darkness. Perhaps someone would ask, Illidan's image is not related to any kind of demon, and appearing in the Abyss Land, where a large number of demons are active, is not asking for kneeling. This has to mention the new ability that Illidan got after this battle. Originally, Euphenia was very worried about how to go deep into the demon forces, to understand the demons and find out various information. The Night Elves are alien species at first glance, and the Blood Elves were originally a good choice. There are thousands of Blood Elves wandering in various places in the demon world, but when the things that happened on the Bloody Mountain spread, the Blood Elves might find it difficult to walk in the demon world. Apart from other things, in the Sunwell, Euphenia has discovered that the spiritual connection between a few Blood Elves and him suddenly broke in the past 2 days. This can only mean that those Blood Elves are dead. I'm afraid this is the sequel of the Blood Elves' prestige on the Blood Mountain. As for getting information from the minds of the Blood Elves who originally served in various demon forces, Euphenia has tried it. But the Blood Elves outside are generally either gladiators or low-ranking adventure demons, and there is not much valuable information that can be obtained. In addition, Euphenia has summoned all the Blood Elves outside to return to the Blood Mountain, and the channels for the Blood Elves to obtain information outside are completely cut off. In the end, only Illidan is capable of the task of traveling. Illidan's demon domain will be strengthened every time he fights with demons. It is not only the increase in the strength of the domain and the increase in the demonic aura, but more of it is reflected in the strength bonus and new abilities that can be provided to Illidan. For example, the demons that have been killed before are consumed by the demonic aura and condensed into puppets in the domain, which is a function that the original demon domain does not have. If this ability was not limited to being used only in the demon transformation state and within the coverage of the demon domain, it can be said that Illidan has an additional powerful summoning skill. In the battle, when Piccolo was invaded, Illidan's demon domain killed more than 1,000 demons, which also brought him a new ability. This ability is somewhat similar to his ability to summon puppets within the scope of the demon domain. Now Illidan can transform into the appearance of the demons he has killed and use the abilities of the transformed demons. It's a pity that Piccolo was drowned by countless attacks in the end, otherwise Illidan could even transform into Piccolo to take over Piccolo. It should be mentioned that Piccolo's death not only brought Illidan a curse of public enemy of demons, but also provided a lot of experience to Illidan and the Blood Elves who attacked him. The effect of these experiences is that Illidan has taken a step further towards level 9, and many new elite Blood Elf magicians have appeared. As for the troublesome curse of the public enemy of demons, Yufei originally thought that it would prevent Illidan from traveling, but in the end, he found that, as long as Illidan did not use the abilities of his original body after transformation, he would not emit the aura that disgusted all demons. Of course, the effect of doubling the damage inflicted and received by demons still exists. After several considerations, Yufei finally let Illidan travel as a legendary demon, restricted by the curse of the public enemy of demons. In order not to be besieged by a large number of demons, Illidan could only use the abilities of the demons he transformed. Therefore, it is necessary to ensure that the demons he transformed have the strength to walk smoothly in the demon world. He has only killed an epic demon from Set's Hell, whose existence is unknown in the demon world, and the strong men at the level of Demon King are not cabbages in the demon world. The sudden appearance of one will definitely cause some changes. After thinking about it, it is better to transform into a legendary demon that is not so noticeable and powerful. Illidan chose to transform into a legendary fire demon, one of the demon generals under the great demon King Piccolo. Before the surrounding demon forces jointly attack Scarlet Mountain, he will travel in the demon world as a legendary fire demon. A little stuck. Just this chapter today. Chapter 438 Demonic Heart. The town of Biwata, the home of monsters. A sloppy, ruffian-like bat-winged demon had just finished a glass of bloody liquid, and an unsatisfied expression appeared on his face. Obviously, he didn't seem to have drunk enough. But after touching his body, his expression turned into regret. How could the few magic coins he had tinkered with the other day be spent so quickly? With a turn of his eyes, the bat-winged demon approached the front desk waiter, a gold demon, with ill intentions. "Hey, man, how about we make a bet?" The bat-winged demon winked at the gold demon. While talking, it deliberately played with a black object in its hand, and continued to speak without waiting for the gold demon to reply. "If the next person to enter the monster's home is a flesh and blood demon, then this thing is yours." The bat-winged demon shook the black object in his hand, and before the gold demon could observe it carefully, he put the thing behind him. However, these 2 seconds were enough for the gold demon to initially determine what the black object in the bat-winged demon's hand was. If it was not mistaken, it should be a demon heart. As for what level of demon heart it was, it could not judge. It even had some doubts about whether the black object was a demon heart. But no matter whether the thing hidden behind the bat-winged demon was a demon heart or not, such a simple bet seemed to be a sure win. How could an elemental demon appear in such a remote place as the town of Biwata? The next demon to enter the monster's home must be a flesh and blood demon. No, the bat-winged demon is a very treacherous demon species. How could it give away a demon heart for nothing? It had not finished the bet it wanted to make. Pretending to be unmoved, the Gala demon looked at the bat-winged demon calmly. The bat-winged demon seemed to see the doubt in Gala's heart, but did not care. Instead, he smiled evilly and continued to speak. Don't worry, I won't trick the house of monsters. If the demon that comes in later is an elemental demon, you just need to buy me a glass of bloody cold liquid." As he said that, the bat-winged demon licked his lips, and it was obvious that he wanted to drink the bloody cold liquid. The Gala demon understood. The bat-winged demons like to drink the bloody cold liquid made from blood essence the most. It seems that this bat-winged demon has no magic coins on it, and wants to drink a glass for free by betting. What it doesn't understand is that even if that magic heart is the lowest level 3 magic heart, it is enough to exchange for 10 black magic coins. A glass of bloody cold liquid only costs 2 magic coins. Is this bat-winged demon crazy? Although he had all kinds of doubts, the Gala demon finally agreed to bet with the bat-winged demon. First of all, even if the demon heart in the hands of the bat-winged demon is the lowest level, it is much more valuable than a cup of bloody cold liquid. Secondly, as a waiter here, Gala demon hardly needs to spend magic coins to drink drinks, so even if he loses, he will not lose anything. The most important thing is that Gala demon does not believe that he will lose. It has been a long time since the elemental demon appeared in this remote town of Biwata. How could he come to the monster house just when he made a bet with the bat-winged demon? Next, the 2 demons stared at the door of the monster house, paying attention to the appearance of the next demon who walked in from there. Squeak. With the sound of the door being pushed open, a scorching breath suddenly poured into the monster house. Gala Demon was suddenly startled. This breath, is he going to lose? As the visitor completely entered the monster house, Gala Demon and Bat-Winged Demon saw the face of the demon emitting a scorching breath clearly. The lower body is composed of red fluid and scorching liquid, and the upper body is black armor like solidified magma. This is a fire demon. The face of Gold Demon suddenly showed frustration. What kind of luck did that damn Bat-Winged Demon have? It turned out to be an elemental demon that came in. But no matter how frustrated and unwilling it was, it still served the Bat-Winged Demon a cup of bloody cold liquid. Anyway, if he mixed it himself, at most he would have to make up for a magic coin, and he didn't lose too much. The Bat-Winged Demon saw the new cup of bloody cold liquid, cracked his mouth, and picked it up. Then, he threw the object hidden behind him into the front desk. Gold Demon picked it up, and took a look, and he was almost furious. This is not a demon heart, it's just a ball of mud molded into the shape of a demon heart. By the way, I heard that demons of the Bat-Winged Demon type can use some spells that confuse the mind. Could it be that I was it just now? Glancing at the Bat-Winged Demon who walked away with a laugh with hatred, Gold Demon warned himself in his heart that he would never believe the words of the treacherous Bat-Winged Demon again in the future. The Bat-Winged Demon who successfully obtained a cup of bloody cold liquid through betting or deception came to the side of the Fire Demon who had just entered with satisfaction and sat down. Thank you, Mr. Fire Demon, for letting me get a free cup of bloody cold liquid. Illidan looked at the demon with huge bat wings in front of him holding a cup of blood red liquid and felt an inexplicable feeling in his heart. What's going on? As soon as he entered this place that looked like a tavern, a demon came to thank him. That's right, the fire demon who entered the House of Monsters was Illidan, who had transformed and walked out of the abandoned land and came to the area where the abyss was located. However, at this time, he restrained the power fluctuations all over his body, pretended to be a fire demon with average strength, and entered this town to check the news. Although Illidan can now transform into the demons he has killed, this ability is not without cooling time, and he can only transform into the appearance of a demon. He has the ability to transform into a demon, but he will not gain memory. Therefore, before going deep into the demon society, he still needs to have a general understanding of the social system and common sense of the demons. After leaving the abandoned land, the first place he encountered with many buildings was the town of Biwata. Then, he entered the town and came to the home of the demons, where he could sense the large number of demons through the breath. Illidan didn't know much about demons, including the money needed to travel the Jianghu. Perhaps, this familiar demon in front of him would be a guy who could give him a general understanding of the demon society. A hoarse voice came out of Illidan's head, which was now burning with flames. Well, then shouldn't you take some practical actions to express your gratitude? The Bat-Winged Demon was stunned, and then showed an embarrassed look. If he still had magic coins on him, he wouldn't have cheated the waiter to get the bloody cold liquid. And it was just a courtesy to the fire demon. Who would have thought that the elemental demons who always disliked contact with other demons would actually take advantage of it? After a few laughs, the Bat-Winged Demon successfully turned the topic to other aspects. Illidan, who wanted to understand the demon society as soon as possible, was also happy to see it happen, and followed the Bat-Winged Demon's words to chat. As the conversation went on longer and longer, Illidan finally dug out some basic common sense of the demon society from the Bat-Winged Demon. Of course, some mental induction methods were indispensable. The Bat-Winged Demon who had just deceived the Gala Demon with his ability to confuse the mind would never have thought that he would be tricked by a fire demon. After leaving the Bat-Winged Demon who became a little dizzy after drinking the cup of blood red liquid, Illidan turned and left the monster's house. Having already got what he wanted, he naturally would not stay in this remote town. However, Illidan, who left in a hurry, did not seem to notice the eyes of other demons in the monster's house. How could a rare elemental demon suddenly appear in a place like the town of Biwata and not attract attention? More importantly, when talking to the Bat-Winged Demon, Illidan suddenly took out two black objects from somewhere to check. The demon with a clear eye observed from a distance and was able to conclude that they were two demon hearts. And it seemed that they were not the lowest level demon hearts. Two demon hearts of at least level 4 were worth more than 200 black magic coins. Many demons who stayed in the monster house showed greed in their eyes, but most of them did not make any move and watched Illidan leave the monster house. Only the Gala demon who served as a waiter had his eyes drifting twice, and then he left the monster house from the back door. As for Illidan at this time, he had just walked out of the town of Bavard and was sorting out some basic information about the demon society he got from the bat-winged demon. Although the demons dominate the demon world, it does not mean that there are no other species in the demon world. For example, blood elves are not creatures like demons. Of course, races like blood elves are still rare in the demon world. In the demon world, in addition to a large number of demons, the largest number is a variety of monsters. The so-called monsters are similar to the monsters in the world of Veslazer. It can be said that the number of monsters in the demon world is many times more than that of demons. It's just that monsters have no wisdom, even very powerful monsters. In any world, it will never happen that an intelligent race is ruled by a barbaric race when the power difference is not big. Therefore, in the demon world, demons are the dominant ones after all. The existence of demons is more to provide resources for demons. This resource is the demon heart. After being killed, demons of level 3 and above have a chance to condense a black energy crystal, which contains the life essence of this demon. This energy crystal is called the demon heart by demons. The energy in the demon heart can be absorbed and utilized by demons. It can be said that the demon heart is a major source of demon power growth. Well, I feel that I'm still not good at writing dialogue scenes. If nothing unexpected happens, there will be 3 updates today, before 11 o'clock and before 12 o'clock respectively. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 439, The Following Golem. Demon hearts are almost the same thing in the demon world. As for why it is because the common equivalent in the demon world is a currency called magic coins. However, the exchange rate between magic coins and magic hearts of different levels is fixed, so magic hearts are often used directly as currency. Previously, in the monster house, the 2 black objects that Illidan took out were 2 things he got after killing some monsters on the road. He took them out to confirm with the bat-winged demon whether the demon hearts were this kind of thing. The result of the identification was naturally good. The 2 demon hearts that Illidan took out from the space ring were one level 5 and one level 6. Just these 2 demon hearts, provided by the monsters he killed casually, can allow him to live a good life in an ordinary demon town. In addition, Illidan also understood why there were no big demon forces willing to take root in the abandoned land. Perhaps because there are many cross-border altars, there are almost no powerful monsters living in the abandoned land. As a result, the demons who need to rely on the devil's heart to strengthen their strength will not want to live on this barren soil. About the information and knowledge of the devil's heart, Illidan asked more details about the social organization of the demons. The other 2 areas are unclear. In the largest land of the abyss, the social structure of the demons is similar to the city-state system, but it is mixed with some feudal structures. At the top, there is naturally an epic demon king. The demon king mentioned here refers to the demon who built a demon city and became the master of a city. According to statistics, there are a total of 134 demon cities in the entire abyss land. Of course, the number of demon kings is more than that. Those who can build a demon city are considered strong in the demon king level. Below the demon city, there is a ruling structure of one level after another. It should be noted that in addition to the Demon King, demons from the legendary level to the silver level are also divided into titled demons and ordinary demons. Let's put it this way, the difference between a titled demon and an ordinary demon is like the difference between a demon king who can build a demon city and an ordinary demon king. According to the difference in levels, from legendary to silver, the titled demons have titles ranging from demon duke to demon baron. Every demon who can be titled can be said to be the pinnacle of the same level of demons. Generally speaking, a sky level demon with the title of Demon Marquis can have the strength to compete with weaker legendary demons, and the same is true for other levels. Demons with titles have the qualifications to build small cities, towns, and even villages according to their own levels. Only demon gathering places with lords can be considered within the system. The rest of the villages and towns formed by ordinary demons spontaneously gathering are often not recognized. Strangely, titles such as Demon Duke and Demon Earl need to be recognized in the demon city, but titled demons with their own territories do not need to fulfill any obligations to the demon city. Even if the demon city with a title goes to war with other forces, these classes that can be called demon nobles can still choose whether to help that demon city. This may be related to the fact that the environment in the demon world is relatively chaotic and monsters are rampant outside the demon gathering place. Demon City generally does not provide any protection to the titled demons that are in Warcraft, so those demon nobles do not fulfill any obligations to Demon City. After learning about the demon nobles, Illidan's first thought was that he must become a demon noble with his current identity. As a privileged class, the information that demon nobles can obtain must be much more than that of ordinary demons. Maybe from the mouth of a demon noble, he can get news about the Heart of Darkness. But after the bat-winged demon explained to him the difference between the types of demons, Illidan felt that this method would not work when he was a fire demon. The types of demons in the entire demon world can be said to be strange, but they are generally classified into two categories. One is the flesh and blood demons that most demons belong to, that is, the body structure is made of flesh and blood. The other is the elemental demons that have almost no physical existence, such as the fire demon. A long time ago, the elemental demons were actually classified as monsters. However, the elemental demons are not weak in wisdom after all, and after some strong people appeared, they were gradually recognized as a kind of demon. But the species are different after all. Most of the elemental demons live in the lava kingdom and the ice purgatory, while the flesh-blood demons are active in the abyssless land. It can be said that, even though they are both demons, there is still little intersection between the elemental and flesh-blood demons. This is also one of the reasons why the Gala demon was willing to bet with the bat-winged demon before. There are very few elemental species active in the abyssless land. By the way, because of the different species, few elemental demons can get the title of nobles in the abyssless land, even if their strength has reached it. Well, it seems that it is difficult to obtain the identity of a demon noble in the abyssless land with the identity of a fire demon. It is better to wait until the skill of the transformation demon cools down and transform into another kind of flesh-blood demon. However, the fire demon form may be used when traveling in the lava kingdom. It is said that, because they are a minority, the elemental demons are more united. With the identity of a fire demon, it must be easier to get along in the lava kingdom. It is also difficult to get any valuable information from a bat-winged demon, who is mixed in a small town. Illidan was already satisfied with the general understanding of the social structure of the demon world in the magic heart and magic coins. As for more things, maybe he could get them from the minds of those guys following him? Illidan glanced back with a cold gaze. Although he did not find any traces of demons or monsters in his sight, with his strong perception, Illidan could indeed sense a creature hiding behind a rock and following him from a distance. With a cold smile on his face, Illidan pretended not to know, and continued to move forward. It was interesting that there were demons who followed him without knowing the danger. Perhaps it was because he had taken out the magic heart to check in the monster's house before that some demons became greedy. But ordinary demons would probably dare to attack and kill a demon like him who could hunt strong monsters. Those who dared to come and rob after realizing that the magic heart he took out was not a low-level magic heart must be demons with strong strength and status. Such demons should know more. Leaning against a huge rock, the golem that ran out of the monster house patted its chest with its sharp claws. Illidan's glance back just now almost scared its magic core out. With its strength, if it was discovered by the monster hunter, it would probably die without a burial place. That's right, the one following Illidan was the golem servant in the monster house. On the surface, it was just a servant, but in fact, this golem served the lord of the town of Bewater, Viscount Bewater. In other words, the monster house is actually the property of Lord Bewater. The demons who have been hanging around in the town for many years know that the monster house is the property of the lord, so few of them make trouble there. As the lord's spy, after discovering Illidan, who seemed to be the fat sheep of the monster hunter. The golem quickly informed the other demons serving the lord of the town, and then followed Illidan. The other demons in the monster house were also interested in Illidan, but they all knew that the lord would know about Illidan's wealth after he showed it in the monster house. Considering Illidan's possible strong power and the lord's power, the other demons put away their little thoughts. The lord should be here soon, right? If he doesn't come soon, I will be unable to catch up with the speed of the fire demon. The gold demon was full of anxiety. If Viscount Biwata could get a lot of benefits from Illidan, he would definitely share some with it as the discoverer. This kind of thing is not without precedent. Looking at Illidan's back from a distance, the gold demon tiptoed from one rock to another, trying to follow Illidan without being discovered. Finally, the string of bell-like ornaments hanging on the gold demon's waist trembled slightly. With a happy face, the gold demon looked behind. From a distance, it could see dozens of black spots rushing towards this direction quickly. Looking back at Illidan, who seemed to be unaware, Garlem stood up from his hiding place excitedly and waved his claws quickly to the back. Since the people sent by the Viscount have arrived, there is no need to hide. Even if the monster hunter finds out about his pursuit, he can't escape. This time, I can get a lot of magic coins, right? Haha. When the dozen black dots behind him rushed to his side, Golem suddenly found that Viscount Biwata was also in the team of this robbery. Trembling in front of Viscount Biwata, Golem reported to him how he had been tracking Illidan all the way, and where Illidan was now. Viscount Biwata stared at Illidan's back, which seemed relatively small in the distance, and snorted without comment. Normally, he didn't need to go out in person for such things. But after receiving the news, Viscount Biwata learned from the demons in the monster house that the demon heart that Illidan took out was likely not only level 4, but level 5. Feeling that the target's strength and the gains that could be obtained might be greater than the previous operations, Viscount Biwata took action personally. Chapter 442 Funny People. Sure, a sharp bone spike suddenly pierced into the ground. Illidan's body just paused when the bone spike shot at him. Otherwise, the bone spike would have sunk into his body. Although he is now in the form of a fire demon and has no entity, anyone who is stabbed by a thick and long thing will not feel very comfortable. Slowly turning his body, Illidan turned his eyes to the more than 10 demons lined up not far behind him. In fact, Illidan's eyes contained an extremely cold breath. But now he is in the form of a fire demon. There are only 2 balls of jumping hot flames in his eye sockets, and there is no coldness at all. Although he knows what these demons in front of him are thinking, Illidan did not show any emotional fluctuations on the surface, but just asked lightly, "What's the matter?" More than 10 demons were a little surprised at the calm attitude of this fat sheep in their eyes. Even Viscount Biwata was no exception. Isn't it said that fire demons are generally more irritable? The attack has already reached his feet. Doesn't the fire demon understand what he and others mean? Viscount Biwata winked and asked a capable subordinate to come forward and talk to Illidan. This capable subordinate of Viscount Biwata was also a golem. However, with its gold level strength, it was no match for the golem that followed Illidan. Facing Illidan, a fire demon who might be very powerful, it did not look down on him at all and started to talk. "Brother of the elemental species, it's your bad luck to meet us. Hand over all the magic hearts in your body, and perhaps the Viscount will let you go. After all, we don't want to destroy the harmonious relationship between the flesh and blood species and the elemental species. Of course, if you don't know what's good for you, don't blame us for being cruel and ruthless." Hearing the words of the golem through Illidan's perception, Yufei couldn't help but miss the experience of traveling in the human world with his clone. At that time, because he was dressed like a magician, such robbery rarely happened. I wonder what's going on in the world of Slays? I'll have to transfer my main consciousness back to check it out after a while. After all, the Night Elves are my foundation. Of course, this can only be done after the Blood Elves settle down here. It takes a few days to transfer consciousness across space, and the Blood Elves still need their own guidance. Once Yufei's thoughts spread out, it's easy for him to wander around, but Illidan won't be like that. Facing the harsh words of the gold-level gold demon, he just sneered disdainfully and didn't react. This naked contemptuous act naturally made the gold demon embarrassed. Viscount Biwata sent him to negotiate as an act of trust in him, but he didn't expect that the fire demon was so ignorant that he lost face in front of the Viscount. Without hesitation, the gold demon's stubby arms closed, and a huge brown-red fireball appeared between the two claws, and soon it was thrown towards Illidan with the gold demon's movements. Now, Illidan's face was no longer calm, but full of surprise. This ghoul actually fired a fireball at a Balrog? Could it be that this guy's IQ is still so low even at the gold level? This can't be blamed on the ghoul, because this is the strongest attack method of the ghoul. The ghoul evolved from the Gog, and the weakest one has the strength of the bronze level. Whether it is the Gog or the ghoul, the best attack method is to fire fireballs. However, the fireballs fired by the Gog are single target attacks, while the ghoul fired are all explosive fireballs, which are not only much more powerful, but also become a small scale group attack spell. The ghoul was also used to the explosive fireball attack method at the beginning. When the fireball in his hand was fired, he remembered that the opponent was not an ordinary enemy, but a Balrog. However, the attack had already been launched, and it could only watch its fireball fly towards Illidan awkwardly. As expected by all the demons, this huge fireball with strong energy did not cause any ripples when it hit Illidan. On the contrary, when the fireball approached Illidan, it began to shrink rapidly and soon merged into his body. The flames burning on his current body of the Balrog seemed to suddenly become brighter. The gold demon looked at Viscount Biwata in a panic, and it was not surprising that he saw dissatisfaction in Viscount Biwata's eyes. Living in the small town of Biwata, it naturally knew how serious it was to make the Viscount dissatisfied. In a panic, the gold demon pounced on Illidan viciously, ready to deal with him in close combat. There was no way. The gold demon's best attack method had no effect on the Balrog, so he could only try to deal with Illidan in close combat. Facing this guy who overestimated his own abilities, Illidan still looked very calm. Although the performance of the previous golem made the cold-hearted man smile in his heart, this could not be a reason for him to let the golem go. A golem that is good at long-range attacks started a close combat? This is really crazy. Although the body of the fire demon does not look very strong, it is because its whole body is made of materials such as flames and lava. In fact, the power of the fire demon is very strong. In addition, enemies who get close to the fire demon and fight with it in close combat will continue to be burned. If a demon with insufficient physical strength inserts an arm claw into the body of the fire demon, it may be pulled out and only half of it will be left. However, Illidan was not prepared to give this funny golem a chance to fight in close combat. Although the fire demon he transformed into was many times weaker than the demon hunter, it was still a legendary existence. How could it feel pressured by the attack of a weak gold level demon? Just gently waving the magma condensed flaming claws, a long flaming whip extended from Illidan's side and lashed the attacking golem. The flaming whip flashed and disappeared directly, as if it had never appeared. But Golem's galloping figure suddenly stopped and stood motionless between more than 10 demons and Illidan, with his eyes bulging. What kind of whip is this? Golem asked this question with difficulty in a low voice. Illidan's mouth curled up a smile and slowly replied, "Heaven, outer, flying, whip." Golem slowly closed his eyes and said the last words of his life. What a flying whip from the sky. I would rather die than see such a profound whip method. Before he finished speaking, Golem's body was torn into pieces and exploded into a ball of blood mist. Well, the above scenes are all Yufei's imagination. Yufei really wanted to give this funny gold demon who attacked the Balrog with explosive fireballs morals. Unfortunately, the real situation was that Illidan swung a long whip of fire, and the gold demon who could not recognize the difference in strength turned into a ball of ashes and scattered, casting a haze on the hearts of the dozens of demons who were chasing him. Although the capable subordinates were easily solved, because the gold demon was too funny, it was not difficult to see Illidan's strength. However, as a titled demon, Viscount Biwata had done countless robberies, so he would not be scared so easily. His subordinates were killed, so as the boss, he naturally had to come forward. Viscount Biwata stepped forward and spoke with a cold smile on his face. "How do you want to die?" Yufei was stunned, and Illidan's face, which had always been indifferent, couldn't help showing astonishment. What on earth gave this demon Viscount such strong confidence? Even if he is a titled demon, he is only a gold level demon. The gold level demon Gala was solved in one move. He still doesn't understand the situation. Seeing the unpretended confidence and coldness on Viscount Biwata's face, Yufei and Illidan suddenly had a sense of enlightenment. It's not his fault that the Gala demon is so funny. This is a result of his superiors following his example. Too lazy to waste time with funny people, Illidan directly took out the 2 magic hearts he took out from the monster house and asked Viscount Biwata, "Do you want these 2 magic hearts?" Viscount Biwata looked at the magic hearts in Illidan's hand and nodded involuntarily, and began to observe the 2 magic hearts carefully. Then, his face changed suddenly. One of the 2 magic hearts in Illidan's hand is indeed level 5, but the level of the other magic heart is definitely level 6 from the energy aura. The 6th level demon heart can only be obtained from a 6th level monster, and Viscount Biwata, a gold level titled demon, can barely protect himself from a 6th level monster. This time, he hit a wall. Viscount Biwata had only this thought in his mind, and then he quickly looked up at Illidan, his eyes full of pleading, and opened his mouth to speak. Unfortunately, Illidan did not waste any more time, and did not give Viscount Biwata time to speak. He still waved his flaming claws a few times, and the fiery red whip shadow flashed by, and more than a dozen demons chasing Illidan stopped in place. Not long after Illidan left, a hot flame suddenly jumped out of the bodies of these demons, burning them to ashes. Without the Lord of Biwata Town, it would naturally cause a series of changes. However, these things have nothing to do with Illidan. His next goal is to enter the nearest small town. The robbery and murder of Viscount Biwata was only a small episode in Illidan's journey. Occasionally, he might still think of the 2 funny guys who brought him some fun. But what Illidan saw more than anything else was the status of the demon nobles. As a demon viscount, Biwata's strength was only gold level, but he was able to command more than 10 demons of the same level, which was impossible in the world of Esraz. 3 chapters are finished, and I finally didn't let you down. There seems to be a very bad recommendation tomorrow. I don't know if it will make the data look better. Please support me. Chapter 441 Duke Dracula. Standing on the top of a small hill, Illidan looked out at a small town not far away. This small town was the only small town in the nearby area that he had heard from the Bat-winged demon. The city lord was a demon duke. Coincidentally, this demon duke was also a Bat-winged demon. Unlike the world of Slays, the cities in the demon world did not have walls. Ordinary walls could be climbed easily by bronze level warriors, not to mention that there were many demons whose body structures allowed them to walk on walls, as if they were flat ground or even fly directly. Of course, although there were no city walls, there were still some fences to distinguish between towns and wastelands. The small town in front of Illidan was a relatively prosperous one. Although the demons coming and going at the entrance to the city could not be called a constant stream, there were still quite a few of them. After a brief observation, Illidan walked down the hill and entered the small town. When entering the city, there were several demons similar to soldiers collecting the entrance fee, but Illidan had no magic coins, so he gave off a little deterrence to scare the demon soldiers and went straight into the city. The demon duke was only a legendary level. The legendary level Balrog that Illidan transformed into was very powerful, and there was no need to fear the lord called Dracula in this small town. As soon as he entered the city, Illidan felt the powerful energy fluctuations coming from the center of the small town. At the same time, a large number of demons in the city became excited and began to rush to the center of the city. Looking at the demons around him rushing to the center of the city like chicken blood, Illidan was puzzled, but he also followed them to the place where the energy fluctuations broke out. After getting a little closer, Illidan sensed it. It turned out that at this time in the center of the small town, there were 2 legendary demons fighting. Looking at this huge and chaotic energy aura, it seems that it is not a competition, but a life and death battle. Quietly squeezing into the crowd, Illidan silently listened to the discussion of the demons and watched the battle in the square in the center of the city. After all, a small town is not as good as a small town, and elemental demons are not rare. Illidan's appearance did not cause too many demons to be surprised or pay attention, especially when 2 legendary demons were fighting on the field. After listening to a few words, Illidan learned the reason for the battle from the demons watching. It turns out that in addition to reaching the strength to go to the 134 demon cities for certification and enfeoffment, there is another choice to become a titled demon. This choice is to directly destroy the existing demon lords and take their titles and territories for yourself. Of course, there is also an unspoken rule in the middle, that is, only the same level can be seized. For example, a gold level demon cannot attack a demon baron, a legendary demon cannot seize the title of a demon marquis. If you are at the same level, you can kill the original lord, and you can directly become a demon noble at that level. Just like the sickle demon who is fighting with the bat-winged demon Duke Dracula on the field, if he can kill Duke Dracula, he will become a new demon duke. This is good news. Illidan suddenly felt relieved. Almost all the demon kings in the Abyssland are flesh and blood. It is difficult for the elemental fire demon he transformed into to obtain the status of a demon noble in the Abyssland through formal channels. Now, by directly killing a demon duke, Illidan's identity as a fire demon does not need to be certified in the Castle of Demons, and he can directly become a demon noble of the highest level. After learning the reason for the battle, Euphony ignored the discussions of the demons watching, but watched the battle going on in the square carefully. Although Duke Dracula is a bat-winged demon, he is completely different from the drunkard bat-winged demon that Illidan saw in the town of Bivat. He does not have a pair of huge bat wings behind him. The whole person looks like a gentle human noble, but his skin is abnormally pale. The sickle demon opposite him looks more ferocious. Both arms are huge sickles. Overall, he looks a bit similar to Cetus. The battle on the field has obviously just begun, and it is still unclear who is stronger and who is weaker. Judging from the energy aura alone, both demons were at the peak of the legendary level and seemed to be evenly matched. However, judging from the expressions of the two demons, the original Lord Duke Dracula looked calm, while the challenger, the Scythe demon, looked solemn. At this time, Illidan did not pay attention to the Scythe demon. He felt a familiar yet unfamiliar fluctuation on Duke Dracula's body. It seemed that he had seen similar fluctuations somewhere before, but he could not remember it. After a long confrontation, the Scythe demon could not help but attack first. With two sickle-like arms spread out beside him, the Scythe demon rushed directly towards Duke Dracula. However, this extremely simple attack made the demons watching, except Illidan, unable to see clearly, because the speed of the Scythe demon was too fast. As a demon species with a small number in the demon world, the Scythe demon has always been famous for its speed. The extremely fast movement speed and their naturally sharp sickle arms often cut the opponent in half as soon as they pass by. The sickle demons that have reached the legendary level and above are called soul harvesters. Their sickle arms contain mysterious and powerful abilities, which can directly act on the enemy's soul when attacking the enemy, causing extremely heavy mental damage. This sickle demon, which can already be called a soul harvester, relies on its extremely fast speed to cut Duke Dracula directly with its sickle. Even if it can't be cut in two, as long as a slight cut is made, it can cause great mental trauma to Duke Dracula. However, although the sickle demon is fast, it is not as fast as the bat-winged demon. In addition to liking to eat blood, the bat-winged demon is a demon species with only super fast speed. After all, the huge bat-like wings behind them are not for show. Although Duke Dracula's current form does not show wings, the speed he possesses is still not comparable to that of the sickle demon on the opposite side. With a slight dodge, the sickle demon, whose attack trajectory is straight, rushed directly past Duke Dracula, but failed to cause any harm to Duke Dracula. The Scythe demon noticed that his scythe arm did not feel any touch on his body, and was startled. He quickly turned around and looked at Duke Dracula vigilantly. But Duke Dracula did not attack behind him when he could not control his strength and charged too far. He was still calm and composed. Looking at the Scythe demon's vigilant but warlike eyes, Duke Dracula spoke with a hint of helplessness. "Give up. You are not my opponent. Fighting and killing is really boring. Why are all demons like this? Can't you calm down and strengthen your strength? Only by being strong enough can you avoid the fate of death. Or, throw yourself into the arms of death like me." Duke Dracula's last words were not even heard by the Scythe demon opposite him, but were heard by Illidan in the demon group. Throw yourself into the arms of death. What does this mean? The strange feeling in Illidan's heart became much stronger. The Scythe Demon was completely unmoved by Duke Dracula's words of persuasion, but crossed his arms and gave up the attack again. This time, he did not rush forward and attack with his body like before, but launched a long-range attack. This choice was wise. His speed, which he was usually proud of, was not as fast as Duke Dracula. There was still a slight chance of hitting Duke Dracula with a long-range attack. A black light quickly emerged from the crossed sickle arms of the Sickle Demon, and then formed an X-shaped black energy slash, flying towards Duke Dracula. This is a powerful attack skill that the Sickle Demon possesses as a soul harvester, the Soul Crosscut. The seemingly ordinary X-shaped energy slash is actually a manifestation of the Sickle Demon's innate ability, which can identify a soul tracking and directly attack the spirit. Chapter 442, The Lord of Dread. Alas. Facing the attack launched by the Sickle Demon, Duke Dracula sighed, as if he really didn't want to fight the Sickle Demon. The flying speed of Soul Crosscut was not slow, and it was a skill that could automatically track. Duke Dracula seemed unable to avoid this attack. Of course, he had no intention of dodging at all, and he also knew the automatic tracking characteristics of Soul Crosscut. Duke Dracula raised his right hand and pressed it down gently. In front of him, a fan-shaped energy wave mixed with black and green suddenly appeared. When this energy wave first bloomed, the fan was still very small, but it soon spread out and turned into an energy wave with a wide coverage area to meet Soul Crosscut. Just when Duke Dracula released this energy wave, Illidan's face changed suddenly. He only felt that Duke Dracula's spell was extremely familiar, and he had definitely seen it, but he didn't have any relevant memories. With a lot of entanglement in his heart, he could only continue to watch the confrontation between the black and green energy wave and Soul Crosscut. At this time, Euphenia's shock was even greater than Illidan's entanglement. The attack launched by Duke Dracula was familiar not only to Illidan, but also to Euphenia. The difference was that Euphenia knew where this familiarity came from. Judging from the sound and light effects of the black-green energy wave emitted by Duke Dracula, this was clearly the skill of the Rancid Bee Swarm in Warcraft. Of course, it was not the ultimate skill of the Crypt Lord, which was also called the Rancid Bee Swarm in some translated versions, but the Rancid Bee Swarm of the Dread Lord. In Illidan's puzzled eyes, the black-green Rancid Bee Swarm and the Soul Cross slash emitted by the Scythe Demon collided fiercely. Originally, spiritual spells like Soul Cross slash were not substantial, but the Rancid Bee Swarm still blocked the flight of Soul Cross slash, as if it also contained a spiritual attack. The result of the collision of the two skills surprised the demons watching. Soul Crosscut is a well-known talent skill in the demon world, but it was annihilated by a black-green energy wave that Duke Dracula casually sent out. Even the power of the stinking bee swarm was still left, and it still rushed towards the Sickle Demon. However, after the Soul Crosscut was annihilated, the energy contained in the stinking bee swarm was almost offset. The Sickle Demon casually waved his sickle arm to disperse the energy wave that rushed in front of him. But although the action was chic, the Sickle Demon looked extremely ugly. I thought that the Soul Crosscut could not only directly solve Duke Dracula, but also cause him some trauma. I never thought that Dracula's casual counterattack would break my talent skill, and even have some spare power. Could it be that I really can't beat this demon Duke? No, it's impossible. I'm also a demon who has reached the peak of the legendary level, and a powerful soul harvester. How can I not be the opponent of this lowly bat-winged demon? There are very few strong people emerging from the bat-winged demon population. Duke Dracula is already the peak of the bat-winged demons, and his population status is naturally not as good as that of the Sickle Demon. The unyielding Sickle Demon gave up the long-range attack and returned to the close combat method. However, this time he learned his lesson and did not charge directly, but fought with Duke Dracula. After getting close, the advantage that Duke Dracula's fast movement speed could bring was reduced a little. Compared with the pair of sharp sickle arms of the Sickle Demon, Duke Dracula, who was like a human noble, obviously had a natural disadvantage in terms of weapons, and seemed to be at a disadvantage for a while. That's it. The Sickle Demon was full of excitement. If this goes on, he will definitely be able to kill Duke Dracula, become a demon duke, and be respected by countless demons. I don't know how many magic coins I can get from this small town. Generally speaking, even demons with the same level of strength would rather go to the demon city for testing and certification to get a title. Fighting against a demon lord of the same level or even stronger than yourself is likely to lead to your fall. But at the level of the Marquis and Duke, it is different. The demon city can recognize your title and assign a piece of territory to you, but it is impossible to help you build a small city or town. Demon settlements at the level of villages and towns are easy to build, but at the level of towns and small towns, the resources and energy required are not a little bit. Therefore, demons above the cloud level who are confident in their own strength generally choose to challenge the original lord to obtain the status of aristocracy. Killing or driving away the original demon nobles can not only save the trouble of going to the demon city for certification, but also directly get a well-built town or small town. In the meantime, great benefits can be obtained. The sickle demon who challenged Duke Dracula wanted to take away everything Duke Dracula had. But the sickle demon, who was in a beautiful imagination, did not find that. As he continued to fight, Duke Dracula gradually showed impatience on his face. The scythe demon suddenly felt a sharp pain in his neck and couldn't help but screaming loudly. Although he usually brings pain to others and enjoys the screams of the weak, he will still scream when the pain falls on himself. The scythe demon, who was pulled from fantasy to reality, suddenly found that his neck was tightly bitten by Duke Dracula, and his strong body exuded a feeling of powerlessness at this time. "What's going on?" Exclamation mark. Feeling that his blood seemed to flow down his neck to Duke Dracula's mouth, the scythe demon was full of confusion. Wasn't he still in the upper hand just now? But soon, even his confused mood disappeared. The scythe demon only felt a mysterious wave emanating from Duke Dracula's body and sank into his mind. Then, he felt a strong sleepiness. At this time, the pain of the wound on his neck seemed to disappear, and instead there was a suffocating and pleasant feeling, which made the scythe demon more drowsy. "No, I'm so sleepy." The scythe demon gradually closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. It was just a sleep, and there was no way to wake up again. In the eyes of the demons watching, Duke Dracula, who was originally shrouded by the scythe shadow, suddenly exerted his strength, blocked the scythe arm that was chopped down, and bit the scythe demon. The scythe arm of the scythe demon was naturally extremely sharp, and Duke Dracula's two arms were almost cut off directly, and it seemed that they were only connected by the skin of the elbows. But as he bit the scythe demon's neck, it seemed to absorb the scythe demon's blood, and the injuries on his arms began to recover at an astonishing speed, and soon it became as if he had never been injured. Even among demons with very strong regenerative abilities, it is amazing that such injuries of almost cut arms can recover at such a fast speed. Then the scythe demon lowered his head, as if he had given up resistance, and was directly sucked into skin and bones by Duke Dracula, which made the demons watching in an uproar, and talked about it. Among all the demons, only Illidan saw the very light blood red pattern under Duke Dracula's feet when he bit the sickle demon, and the mysterious fluctuations emanating from Duke Dracula afterwards. At the same time, Euphena's heart was full of solemnity. Not only the rotten bee swarm, this Duke Dracula actually possessed two skills, the blood-sucking aura and the sleep skill. Euphenia did not expect that Illidan had just started his journey and had gained so much. The skills possessed by this Duke Dracula are the same as those of the Dreadlord in Warcraft. There must be a great secret in between. No, this Duke Dracula must be caught. In the world of Slays, Euphenia discovered the Naga tribe led by Tangyajia. Perhaps in this demon world, there will be traces of the undead. In the square, as the victory of Duke Dracula and the sickle demon was decided, the demons watching began to gradually disperse. But Illidan followed Euphena's order and flashed to the center of the square. Chapter 443 Escape without a fight. The demons watching were stunned. What day is today? Just now, a guy who challenged the Lord's position was killed, and another one appeared. Illidan, who appeared in the center of the square, swung a long whip of fire and whipped Duke Dracula. All the demons immediately understood that this was another challenger who wanted to become the new demon duke. The demons who were dispersing stopped their steps and continued to watch the development of the situation with interest. Compared with the sickle demon who just died, the fire demon is relatively rare in the land of the abyss, and most demons don't even know much about the ability of the fire demon. Although Duke Dracula ruled this small town, the nature of demons destined them to be unlikely to be very loyal to the so-called lord. On the contrary, except for the demon soldiers who truly surrendered to the Lord, the subjects of the demon lords were generally happy to see their lords replaced by foreign demons. This is because during the period of transition between the old and new rulers, they can do things that they may not be able to do at ordinary times. Moreover, usually, in order to seek stability in the territory they just acquired, the new lord will temporarily relax some of the jurisdiction and taxes on the people. To be honest, the demons watching Illidan's prospects are not optimistic. The sickle demons who have become soul harvesters have all died in the hands of Duke Dracula. Even though Illidan now appears in the form of a rarely seen fire demon, the demons do not think he is Duke Dracula's opponent. But this is only the view of the demons watching. Unlike these demons whose strength is very weak compared to the 2 people and 1 corpse on the field, Duke Dracula, who is sucking the blood of the sickle demon, loosens the sharp teeth that pierce the neck of the sickle demon, raises his head and looks at Illidan with a serious face. Before, when facing the sickle demon, this Duke Dracula has always been calm and indifferent, as if the powerful soul harvester is no threat to him at all. Of course, the final ending of the sickle demon also proves that Duke Dracula is indeed qualified to be indifferent. However, when facing the fire demon incarnated by Illidan, Duke Dracula could not help but frown. The aura of the fire demon opposite him did not seem to have reached the peak of the legendary level, but it gave him a feeling that was much more dangerous than the scythe demon he had just killed. Moreover, this fire demon exuded an aura that made his heart palpitate. It was just like that time. For some reason, Duke Dracula suddenly felt that he had come to the most dangerous moment in his life. Seeing Illidan's tentative flaming whip coming at him, Duke Dracula quickly dropped the body of the scythe demon and dodged, stopping outside the reach of the flaming whip, looking at Illidan vigilantly and speaking. "This powerful fire demon, do you also want to obtain the status of lord?" Hearing Duke Dracula's question, Illidan raised his eyebrows. In fact, although he had the idea of seizing a dukedom, he did not want to take action immediately. After all, he was not very skilled in controlling the transformed body of the fire demon, so he had to find a demon duke who was not too strong to seize his position. For example, Duke Dracula, who could easily kill the sickle demon of the same level, was obviously the most powerful among the demon nobles, and was not an easy opponent. But whether it was because of the inexplicable sense of familiarity in his heart or the order of the Father God, he had to capture this Duke Dracula. In his mind, Euphena's order to Illidan was to capture the bat-winged demon lord who was suspected to be the Dread Demon, even if his true form was exposed. Of course, fighting always requires an excuse, and seizing the lord's position is obviously a good excuse, and this is what Illidan wanted to do. So, he admitted it in response to Duke Dracula's question. "Yes, this seems to be the Duke named Dracula. Your territory and your life, just leave it to me." Although he turned into a fire demon, Illidan's arrogance remained unabated, and what he said seemed to be natural, which made the demons watching twitch their eyes. Isn't this fire demon too arrogant? Didn't he see the sickle demon that had turned into a mummy? The demons who had lived in this small town for a while all had a general understanding of Duke Dracula's strength. Otherwise, they wouldn't have rushed over to watch the battle between 2 legendary demons. If the 2 legendary demons were of similar strength, the aftermath of the battle would be enough to injure, or even kill some demons below the gold level. Illidan's answer seemed extremely impolite, and the onlookers looked at the fire demon who didn't know how to live or die with pity. But then, Duke Dracula's reaction made them all stunned, and they couldn't believe their ears. "In that case, Your Excellency the powerful fire demon, the title of Demon Duke in this small town are yours. I believe you won't mind if I give up these 2 things and leave." What? The demons watching felt like they were struck by lightning, although lightning rarely appears in the demon world. How is this possible? Shouldn't Duke Dracula's reaction be to angrily kill the provocative Balrog again? How could he say such a thing? However, Duke Dracula said so, and he ignored the shock of the demons watching. After watching Illidan say that he would give up the city and the Duke's identity, he turned into a blood-red bat with a bang and a puff of smoke, flapping his wings and trying to fly away. Obviously, Duke Dracula was not joking. He was ready to leave directly to prove that he was indeed willing to hand over the title and territory to Illidan. Illidan was also very surprised after hearing Duke Dracula's answer, but he would never let Duke Dracula leave so easily. The order given by the father god was to capture the bat alive, even if it exposed his identity as not a demon. Without the slightest hesitation, Illidan flew forward, and a dark red flame mark in his hand was shot out, attacking Duke Dracula, who was about to fly away. This was a natural ability of the Balrog he incarnated, the Burning Soul. The damage this ability can bring is not very strong, but it can mark an enemy and bring him a little continuous damage. The most important thing is that it can play a certain role in banning magic. The effect of soul burning is still good. There is an abnormal fiery red on the body. The blood-colored bat flying in the air quickly landed and turned into Duke Dracula standing on the ground again. At this time, Duke Dracula no longer had the noble demeanor before, but stared at Illidan with an ugly face. "Why, do you still want to keep me?" Illidan deliberately laughed wildly and replied with a hot breath like lava in his mouth. "That's right. Not only your title and territory, I also want to burn your body." While speaking, Illidan raised his hand and shot a lava arrow at Duke Dracula, not giving him a chance to speak again. Faced with Illidan's unreasonable attitude, Duke Dracula's eyes flashed a trace of anger, but his response was to continue to flee, without any intention of fighting Illidan. Seeing Duke Dracula not transforming into a bat again, but relying on his own speed to pass through the demons and leave, Illidan was somewhat speechless. He had made such an arrogant gesture. Why didn't Duke Dracula follow the script? Shouldn't he be furious and fight with him? Surprised, Illidan's actions were not slow. He couldn't just watch Duke Dracula escape like this. It stands to reason that a demon noble like Duke Dracula would not make such a move to hand over his foundation and title to others, and it is even more impossible to flee without fighting when facing an enemy with a weaker aura than himself. Now it's not just Yuffie. Illidan himself has also become curious about Duke Dracula. This guy, who is different from ordinary bat-winged demons, must have a secret. Leaving behind a group of confused onlookers, Duke Dracula and Illidan fled the small town one after another and rushed into the distance. Chapter 444 Hellfire. Duke Dracula's movement speed was extremely fast, but the Balrog incarnated by Illidan was essentially an energy body, and the resistance he encountered when moving was much smaller, and his speed was not slow. When in the small town, the Balrog incarnated by Illidan's bloated body seemed not very flexible, and Duke Dracula pulled away for a distance, but after leaving the small town without many obstacles, Illidan's speed increased, and he followed closely behind Duke Dracula. After maintaining the pursuit for a while, seeing that he could not get rid of Illidan and was being harassed by lava arrows, Duke Dracula finally stopped his galloping body, turned around and looked at Illidan with a gloomy face. "I have already said that I will give you all the title and territory. What else do you want?" Because of the feeling in his heart, Duke Dracula really didn't want to fight with this Balrog that suddenly appeared. Even because of the feeling in his heart, he made a decisive decision to give up the title and territory. But Illidan's relentless pursuit finally annoyed him. Seeing Duke Dracula stop, Illidan was relieved. After all, it was a transformed body, and he was still a little awkward in controlling the body of the fire demon. If he couldn't catch up, he would have to consider returning to his original body to chase. Although the order issued by the father god was to capture Duke Dracula, even if his original body was exposed, it would be best if he could not be exposed. Facing Duke Dracula's question, Illidan answered him expressionlessly, no longer the arrogant expression he had deliberately made to anger Duke Dracula before. "To be honest, my goal is not that small city and the status of a duke. What I want is you." Hearing Illidan's words, Duke Dracula didn't react much, but Yuffie, who was investigating here from afar, felt a chill. How could this guy Illidan talk like that? What did he mean by "I want you"? A love that transcends space, race, and gender. Well, in fact, he also knew that Illidan was just fulfilling the task he assigned. Duke Dracula naturally didn't think that Illidan had a sexual interest in him, but he was even more confused in his heart. "I have clearly stated that I will give up my title and territory and hand them over to the Balrog in front of me. Why does this Balrog still want to fight me to the death?" Although I was puzzled, this did not prevent Duke Dracula from taking a fighting stance. Since the other party was unwilling to let me go, I would not hesitate to fight. Because of the sense of crisis in his heart, Duke Dracula did not attack Illidan directly to absorb his blood, like he did when fighting the sickle demon. The Balrog was full of magma and there was no blood for him to absorb. A mysterious wave emanated from Duke Dracula and soon extended to Illidan. Illidan only felt a very strong sleepiness suddenly surged, and his eyes gradually closed unconsciously, and he was about to fall into a deep sleep. Wake up! A majestic shout sounded in his mind, and Illidan woke up with a start. This is the voice of the Father God. Ah, I was almost hypnotized by Duke Dracula just now. Illidan felt ashamed. Duke Dracula was shocked to see that his sleep skill, which had never failed before, failed, but he did not stop the action of his hands. Illidan was still affected by the sleep skill after all, and this time was enough for Duke Dracula to do what he wanted to do. Illidan suddenly raised his head and looked at the sky. He suddenly felt that there was a huge force in the sky descending towards his position. As soon as he raised his head, Illidan saw a meteorite burning with blazing green flames growing from small to large and about to hit his head. Illidan moved his body and wanted to dodge, but the speed of the green flame meteorite was beyond his expectation. Before he could dodge, the meteorite had already fallen to the ground. Boom! The ground suddenly shook violently, as if a small earthquake had occurred. A large pit appeared at the landing point of the green flame meteorite, and a group of rocks in the pit were slowly stretching and standing up. Soon, a rock giant with green flames all over his body stood up in the crater. But Illidan was knocked down on the wall of the pit and could not move. His reaction was not without effect, at least he was not crushed by the meteorite. However, because he failed to leave the range of the meteorite in time, Illidan fell into a dizzy state and could not move. Hellfire! Looking at the green flame rock giant that appeared in the crater, Euphony exclaimed in his heart. Although he had some guesses, when Duke Dracula actually cast the skill of Hellfire, Euphony was still extremely shocked. The previous blood-sucking aura and sleep can be explained as the special abilities of this Duke Dracula. After all, the demons of the type of bat-winged demon have the habit of absorbing blood and the ability to cast a few mental spells. Even the stinking bee swarm can be explained as an attack skill with similar appearance. But the current Hellfire shows that this Duke Dracula really has the ability of the Undead Dreadlord in Warcraft, rather than a mutated bat-winged demon. Whether in the world of S-Laser or the demon world, there has never been a creature like Hellfire. The dizziness caused by the Hellfire was not very long lasting. When the Hellfire just stretched out its body and stood up, Illidan woke up and left the crater. Duke Dracula, who successfully summoned the Hellfire, was obviously much more relaxed. When the Hellfire landed, in addition to the short-term dizziness effect, it would also cause considerable damage. He believed that the Balrog was already injured at this time. Even if it was not injured, this Hellfire was a legendary summon like them, and 2 against 1 would not be a big problem. Driving the Hellfire to attack Illidan at the edge of the crater, Duke Dracula himself did not stop, and raised his hand to swing out a swarm of rotten bees. It was impossible for Duke Dracula not to be annoyed by Illidan's relentless pursuit. He had been tolerant in every way because of the bad feeling in his heart, but Illidan still refused to let him go. Now that there was a chance to fight back, Duke Dracula would naturally not let it go. The effect of the Hellfire landing was similar to the meteorite sky magic, and the damage it could cause was indeed not low. If it was Illidan's body, then maybe there would be no problem, but now he was controlling the body of a fire demon, so naturally he suffered a certain amount of damage. Of course, because he was a fire demon, Illidan's injuries could not be seen from the outside. At most, the speed of the magma flowing on his body was a little slower and the temperature of the flames was also slightly lower. As soon as he stood still, a shadow appeared above Illidan's head. He didn't need to look at him to know that this must be the Hellfire who wanted to use its sand pot, or should I say, the fist as big as a millstone, to teach him a lesson. With injuries on his body, Illidan didn't want to go head to head with the Hellfire that had a size advantage. Turning into a handful of flames, Illidan left the landing point of the Hellfire's fist, and at the same time, dodged the invasion of Duke Dracula's stinking bee swarm. Illidan, who hid aside, was indignant. If he didn't want to expose his body, that was cursed by the public enemy of demons, he could have dealt with this Hellfire with one hand. Humph. Duke Dracula, is he going to compete with summoning creatures? You can summon, but I can't. Illidan was shaking violently, and he used another innate ability of the fire demon. As his body shook, drops of hot magma fell from Illidan's body. When these drops of magma fell to the ground, they quickly eroded the surrounding ground into magma. Then, from the small magma pits, dozens of creatures made of magma stood up. These dozens of creatures looked like miniature versions of the fire demon, but they were obviously not as domineering as the fire demon. And in terms of strength, they were also much weaker. These miniature fire demons were the lava monsters summoned by Illidan through the fire demon's innate ability. Although the lava monsters were weaker than the hellfire in terms of strength, Illidan summoned them, just to let them contain the hellfire. If it was just to deal with Duke Dracula, Illidan was still very confident in himself, even with this fire demon body, that had many restrictions on him. Chapter 445 Captive. Damn it. Duke Dracula retreated quickly with a burn mark on his arm, that was raised to block the attack. Although Illidan was not holding a familiar warblade, he could use the flame whip very well with the awareness of the demon hunter. Although the dozen or so lava monsters he summoned looked precarious, they finally lived up to Illidan's expectations and barely entangled the hellfire. Facing Illidan alone, Duke Dracula seemed a little restrained. Illidan's body made of magma made it impossible for Duke Dracula to fight in close combat, so he used his talent of absorbing blood. The hypnotic skill that was always effective was inexplicably ineffective on Illidan, and Duke Dracula really had no idea where to start with Illidan. Although the Rotten Bee Swarm had good lethality and could hit Illidan, because of its wide coverage, this energy wave attack could be neutralized by the lava arrows that Illidan fired continuously. The most important thing is that Duke Dracula's trump card, Hellfire, did not bring him the effect he imagined. The strength of the dozen lava monsters is far inferior to that of Hellfire, but because of the number, they are more annoying than Hellfire. Some of them directly surrounded Hellfire, twisted their softened lava bodies to tightly wrap around Hellfire's legs. Others pulled away and spit hot saliva at Hellfire fiercely, that is, lava. Although these methods cannot cause any harm to Hellfire, whose body is made entirely of strange rocks that cannot be burned by the sacrificial flame, this method of hugging thighs and the impact of the lava monster's saliva make it difficult for Hellfire to move easily, let alone attack Illidan. Duke Dracula did not fail to order Hellfire to take heavy hands to get rid of those lava monsters as soon as possible, but it had little effect. In addition to the burning sacrificial flame on his body, Hellfire's attack ability is only direct physical attack. However, as lava monsters split from the fire demon, the sacrificial flames did some damage to them, but it was not serious. And physical attacks could not pose any threat to these lava monsters whose bodies were all liquid. Of course, because of the difference in rank, if Hellfire used all his strength to hit a lava monster, it would not be difficult to kill it. However, more than a dozen lava monsters hugged legs, pulled arms, and the lava monsters with long-range attacks came forward from time to time to replace the part that entangled Hellfire. In this way, Hellfire could not concentrate on attacking a lava monster. Although the final battle between the dozen lava monsters and Hellfire would definitely be won by Hellfire, it would also take some time. During this period of time, if Duke Dracula could not burst out other powerful means, then Illidan could deal with this guy. The flame whip in his hand kept dancing, and Duke Dracula could only jump up and down like a monkey in front of Illidan, no longer having the noble demeanor before. Compared to the fact that Duke Dracula's attack methods could not bring any threat to Illidan, Illidan's attack could cause him considerable damage. As long as he was hit by the flame whip, Duke Dracula would have a long burn mark on his body. Fortunately, Duke Dracula had just sucked the blood of a legendary sickle demon, and now the blood stored in his body was sufficient to allow him to recover quickly. Otherwise, Duke Dracula, who had to dodge Illidan's flame whip and constantly cast the stinking bee swarm to offset the lava arrows, would have been defeated long ago. Raising his hand again, Duke Dracula directly released a skill on Illidan. A ball of green smoke suddenly appeared on Illidan's body, and a negative status appeared on his attribute panel. Parasite. The unit is parasitized and gains the plague state, losing 5 health points per second for 3 minutes. If the unit dies during the duration of the parasite effect, it will be transformed into a zombie that is slightly weaker than before. The zombie has a duration limit. It seems that Duke Dracula has run out of tricks. Although the effect of the parasitic skill is good, the actual lethality is not strong, especially for elemental demons like Balrog. The damage of the plague state is reduced to 3 points per second, which is insignificant. In this case, let's take down this bat. Illidan's eyes condensed and finally made a ruthless move. Before, he was still on guard against the possible trump card of Duke Dracula, but now it seems that he overestimated this guy. Duke Dracula has no powerful means except hellfire. In fact, it can't be blamed on Duke Dracula for being too weak. It's really that he can't use all the means restricted by Illidan's Balrog body. When facing flesh and blood demons, Duke Dracula likes to exchange injuries for injuries the most, because he has a blood-sucking aura that can quickly restore vitality. Hypnosis is a powerful skill that is hard to defend against. But these reliances are completely useless against Illidan's Balrog body, an energy body. With 2 flaming claws pressed on the ground, Illidan did not continue to send out lava arrows or swing the flaming whip, staring at Duke Dracula. Duke Dracula did not relax during this rare time when no attack came, but became more alert. But after a few seconds, Illidan still kept his claws pressed on the ground, motionless and without any intention of launching an attack. What was going on? Duke Dracula felt a little uneasy, but he did not understand where the uneasiness came from. Suddenly, Duke Dracula, who was standing in the same place and confronting Illidan, felt that the ground under his feet began to shake slightly. Not good. Duke Dracula's heart was alarmed. The attack of the fire demon came from underground. However, the attack launched by Illidan this time was somewhat similar to the arrival of hellfire, and it was almost too late when you found it. Just when Duke Dracula changed into a blood-colored bat and was ready to fly away quickly, the ground where he was suddenly cracked. Puff, a sound like a tire leaking sounded, and a large amount of fiery red magma spurted out from the cracks in the ground, directly wrapping Duke Dracula in it. This is an ability of the fire demon that Illidan transformed into called Lava Blast. It can communicate with the underground magma to cover the enemy, and it is quite lethal. It is said that at a higher level, some powerful fire demons can even use this ability to raise a volcano on the ground to attack the enemy. However, at that time, this ability was not called Lava Blast, but Volcano Descend. A heart-wrenching scream came from the magma column, and a charred figure rushed out of the range of the magma eruption like lightning, and fell to the ground with the smell of cooked meat. Duke Dracula should never have turned into a bat to try to escape the range of the magma impact in advance. In bat form, his defense is greatly reduced. When facing the underground magma, the damage he suffers is much greater than that of the demon form. If it weren't for the stock of sickle demon blood in his stomach, Duke Dracula might not even have the opportunity to fight against the magma to regenerate his flesh, and would be directly reduced to ashes. However, although he temporarily escaped with the blood in his stomach, Duke Dracula lost his combat effectiveness. Seeing his body burnt black and unconscious, I'm afraid that a gold level demon or monster could easily kill him. Illidan would not choose to kill Duke Dracula, as this experience was meaningless to him. The reason why he chased out of the town and took so much effort to catch this guy was to get some information from him. If he was killed like this, it would be a waste of effort. After Duke Dracula lost his fighting power, the hellfire was much easier to deal with. Illidan had a free hand, and it didn't take much effort to deal with the hellfire. Not to mention that after the summoner Duke Dracula lost consciousness, the hellfire became fighting only by instinct. Under the entanglement of the lava monster, Illidan solved it before the hellfire's summoning time limit came, turning it into a pile of black gravel. At this time, Duke Dracula, who had become a prisoner, still could not wake up. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 446, Undead Traces. Looking at Duke Dracula, who was lying unconscious on the ground and had automatically returned from bat form to demon form, Illidan's eyes flickered. After the hellfire was destroyed, more than a dozen lava monsters gradually reached the summoning time limit, and each turned into a drop of red and white magma and returned to Illidan. Now, there are only 2 creatures left in this wasteland, Illidan and Duke Dracula. Hehe. Looking at Duke Dracula, who was motionless, Illidan let out a strange laugh. However, the heavy voice of the fire demon made the meaning of this laughter become a mockery. Duke Dracula, how long do you want to pretend to be dead? Stopping his laughter, Illidan suddenly asked this sentence to himself. Duke Dracula on the ground trembled and could no longer pretend, so he could only stand up slowly, helplessly. When Illidan turned the hellfire into a pile of rubble, he recovered from his coma. Now he was just pretending to be unconscious to seek an opportunity to escape. However, Duke Dracula, who was completely soaked by the impact of the magma, was too seriously injured to escape from Illidan, who was in good fighting condition. With a bitter smile, Duke Dracula spoke helplessly. What do you want from me? I have already told you the title and territory. Now it seems that you have no intention of killing me. Can you tell me what the fire demon wants to do? Speaking of which, Duke Dracula is still confused and aggrieved. Originally, the challenge of the sickle demon was just a fun thing for him. Who would have thought that after the sickle demon, another fire demon appeared to challenge his position? Because of the bad feeling in his heart, Duke Dracula made a decisive decision to give up all his status and territory. But even if he did so, Illidan still chased him so far and broke his tricks one by one to capture him. Duke Dracula really didn't understand what kind of deep hatred this sudden fire demon had with him, and he actually held on to him so tightly. Staring closely at Duke Dracula's eyes, Illidan could not see a trace of cunning or wandering in his eyes, which were full of helplessness and unwillingness. Nodding in his heart, Illidan was sure that this guy had indeed given up the idea of escaping and playing tricks. In order to prevent any accidents, Illidan did not return to the form of a demon hunter when he had mastered the overall situation, but continued to negotiate with Duke Dracula in his body of a fire demon. Speaking of which, I do have a great interest in your title and territory. Observing the resentment on Duke Dracula's face with interest, Illidan continued, but what I'm more interested in is where does your strange power come from? Hearing Illidan's question, Duke Dracula's face changed, and he lowered his head, not knowing what he was thinking. But Illidan did not give him time to think of an excuse, and directly began to ask again. Don't bother making up excuses. Other demons may not care about the difference between you and ordinary bat-winged demons, but I know enough about the abilities you use to be able to tell whether what you say is true or false. It's best not to try to deceive me if you still care about your life. In the eyes of ordinary demons, except for the hellfire, the abilities used by Duke Dracula may seem strange, but they are not inexplicable. For example, blood-sucking aura and hypnosis can find similar parts in the innate abilities of bat-winged demons, if Duke Dracula does not share the effects of blood-sucking aura with other demons. As mentioned in the previous article, the stinking bee swarm can be explained as a strange energy attack. Even parasitism can be linked to the curse ability possessed by demons. But Yufei notes that this Duke Dracula is definitely not a simple bat-winged demon with mutated abilities. Others cannot recognize the skills he uses, but Yufei, a wearer who has invaded the War of the Beasts for many years, will definitely not make a mistake. Duke Dracula definitely has the ability of the undead dreadlord through some unknown means. Illidan's aggressive words startled Duke Dracula, and then he gave up the idea of making up excuses. The current situation is that he is at the mercy of others. Duke Dracula thought about it, and finally chose to confess. Being able to get to a high position, Duke Dracula certainly would not be a stubborn devil. He really couldn't think of what Illidan was plotting against him besides his title and territory. If he confessed to Illidan, he might be able to save his life. With deep eyes, Duke Dracula began to tell Illidan, and Yufei was listening at the same time. After a long time, Illidan, or Yufei, finally came back to his senses from the story told by Duke Dracula. Grabbing Duke Dracula, who was still seriously injured, Illidan returned to the small town that originally belonged to Duke Dracula and now belonged to him along the way he came. Yufei's consciousness, far away in the sunwell of Scarlet Mountain, was digesting the news he got from Duke Dracula. According to Duke Dracula's narration, there are indeed traces of the undead in the demon world. His abilities, which are almost the same as those of the Dreadlord, were also obtained from the undead. However, Duke Dracula did not know too much about the specific situation of the undead. He could only be regarded as a collaborator of the undead, but he did not expect that he would be implicated by this identity and be severely suppressed and captured by Illidan. The place where the undead exist is the ice purgatory in the demon world. In that cold area with little magic smoke, according to Duke Dracula's understanding, the undead have developed strong strength. Even many high-level demons in the land of the abyss vaguely know the existence of the undead. In the eyes of some high-level demons who know a little bit of information, the undead may just be a variant of the demon, just like the different populations of Batwing demons and Sickle demons. But Duke Dracula, who has really come into contact with the undead, knows that those guys who can no longer even be called creatures are not demons at all. In other words, they are even more demonic than demons. Duke Dracula will never forget those walking skeletons, the crawling monsters that exude the smell of corpses, and the banshees that float in the air like ghosts. Duke Dracula also knows about the undead. The undead are somewhat similar to the undead, but they are completely different from the undead. The so-called undead are just unconscious bones summoned by spells. But among the undead, perhaps only those skeletons can be counted as undead, and the rest have clear consciousness. Duke Dracula also stepped into the territory of the undead by chance. That was a year ago. At that time, Dracula was not a duke at all, and he had not even reached the legendary level. Being hunted by an old enemy, he fled into the ice purgatory in a panic, and entered the place where the undead were. After that, the memory became a little unclear. The only thing Duke Dracula could still remember was that the undead seemed to use him as a sample and made some mysterious changes to him. Then, he was promoted to the legendary level and possessed some powerful abilities. After that, the undead treated him as a collaborator or a fline and released him back to the land of Wuyan. With a strength that was far different from before, Dracula killed his old enemy who had been chasing him before, and obtained the title and territory by killing the original owner of the small town. It was precisely because he had obtained the title and territory by violent means instead of working hard for it bit by bit, that Duke Dracula decisively gave up these external things and chose to escape when he felt the warning signs in his heart. Unfortunately, he still failed to escape from Illidan's palm. If it was the title he had worked hard to certify, and the territory he had established, Duke Dracula would never give up so easily. Now, Illidan has obtained the identity of a demon duke and a well-built small town from Duke Dracula. But the most important thing is that he learned the news about the undead from him. Chapter 447, Fantasy about the Banshee. After returning to the town, Illidan took over its control as expected. Although they were surprised that the previously extremely powerful Duke Dracula was beaten like a dead dog by the suddenly appearing Balrog, the demons who were already accustomed to the change of lords did not show any willingness to resist Illidan, the new ruler. Illidan did not show any excitement about obtaining the identity of the demon duke in this relatively prosperous town. Originally, he sneaked into the Abyss Land just to find out all kinds of information for the Blood Elves or Yuffie, and wanted to obtain the identity of a demon noble in order to better complete this task. But now from Duke Dracula, Illidan has received news that shocked Yuffie, which can be said to have exceeded the task. In this case, the so-called demon duke identity and territory seem useless. Now Yuffie is no longer concerned about the joint attack of nearby demon forces that the Blood Elves may face, but the undead existing in the ice purgatory. When Yuffie came into contact with Tangyijia and her Naga tribe in the world of Eslazer, he wondered if other races in Warcraft would appear, but he had not been able to find the existence of the Warcraft human race in the human kingdom, and gradually he temporarily put this idea aside. However, he did not expect that there were no traces of other Warcraft races in the world of Eslazer, but he encountered them in this demon world. When he was editing the Blood Elves before, he vaguely saw traces of some human soldiers, but after all, there were differences. Now listening to Duke Dracula's story, those walking skeletons must be summoned by the undead wizard using the skill of resurrecting the dead. The crawling monsters that exude the smell of rotten corpses should be ghouls. But what Yuffie cares about most is the Banshee. If Yuffie were to say, the strongest soldier of the undead should not be the Frost Dragon, but the Banshee. Not to mention the basic skill curse, it can make an enemy unit's attack have a 33% chance of loss. This skill is neither good nor bad. With a large number of purification skills, the curse can have little effect. The anti-magic shield possessed by the upgraded Banshee is a very powerful skill, especially for the Blood Elves. If the Undead and the Blood Elves go to war, this skill that can absorb a lot of magic damage and has no casting interval will definitely cause great trouble to the Blood Elf magicians. But whether it is a curse or an anti-magic shield, it is not as good as the last skill that the Banshee can have, possession. If Yufei remembers correctly, the possession skill can make the Banshee disappear by herself and then completely turn into another creature, retaining all its attributes. Yes, all attributes. If the Banshee occupies an elf, then this elf will be converted into the undead camp, but retain the ability to build Night Elf buildings. When playing Warcraft in the past, Yufei once opened the Lost Temple map 1v3 simple computer using the Undead. After making the Banshee and researching that he could use the occupation skill, he used 3 Banshees to occupy the peasants of 3 different races he selected. Then, using these 3 peasants, various buildings of the Night Elves, humans and orcs appeared in the base of the Undead. Even the 2 hero positions that Yufei reserved specially summoned 2 heroes of other races through the altars of other races that he built. Then, there was the drama of the Frost Dragon and the Griffin Knight flying side by side, and the Tauren and the Mountain Giant fighting side by side. If it weren't for the 100 unit population limit that would not change. Yufei would even want to make a grand exhibition of all the arms of the 4 races. If Yufei knew that there would be other races before crossing over, and he could choose the race freely, he would definitely choose the Undead. If not for anything else, it's for the occupation of the Banshees. There is a population limit of 100 units in the game, but in this alien world, as long as you build enough buildings that provide the population limit, you can have unlimited soldiers. In this way, if you use Banshees to occupy peasants of different races, wouldn't you be able to play with 4 races? But on second thought, Yufei found that the Banshee's role might not be as perverted as he imagined. Even if the Undead used the Banshee to occupy one of their elves, it would be impossible to build the Tree of Life as in the game. It was extremely difficult for Yufei to build the Tree of Life himself or his clone, let alone the Undead. They don't have Yufei's soul. If the Tree of Life cannot be built, then it is nonsense to develop various arms of the Night Elves among the Undead. If the elves build ancient trees, they will consume themselves, which means that the Undead can only build a war ancient tree or a miracle ancient tree after occupying an elf, while the moon well can be built infinitely. This means that, even if the Undead occupy an elf, they can only have a few more archers, huntresses and glaive throwers at most. These primary arms may be able to benefit the Undead in the early stage, but after the second level arms such as the Necromancer and Banshee have been released, they seem to be useless. With those resources, why not train the Undead tribe's own soldiers? With this thought, Yufei was relieved. He also understood that his easily deviated thinking once again showed its erratic nature. Now it is still unclear whether the Undead tribe is an enemy or a friend, and he has already thought about what to do if they use a Banshee to occupy his elf. And after calming down, Yufei thought of another problem, and he was even more relieved. Yufei is very proud of the development speed of the Night Elves. But even so, to this day he has not been able to upgrade to the Eternal Tree, which is the 3rd level. In this way, the Undead tribe that may have also traveled through time and space will surely not reach the 3rd level. The possession of the Banshee can only be obtained by studying the master level training of the Banshee in the Black Castle, which is the 3rd level of the Undead. If the Banshees of the Undead in the demon world can already use possession, this Duke Dracula will definitely not be regarded as a collaborator, but directly occupied. Or, even if the Banshee can use the possession skill, there will be some restrictions in this real world. Shaking his head and not thinking about the Banshee anymore, Yufei thought about the next plan. Originally, Illidan was sent into the Demon Society to find out the news of the demon forces and to find the Heart of Darkness. But now that the traces of the Undead were accidentally discovered, all the previous plans were disrupted. Now, Yufei had to consider how to deal with this Undead who suddenly appeared in front of him. If he guessed correctly, the one who controlled the Undead should also be a time traveler. This was his judgment, based on his own situation and Tangyujia's situation. If this Undead controller, who might be a fellow villager, is as easy to communicate with as Tangyujia's Lali, then there is a possibility of cooperation. The undead has been developing in the demon world for at least a year, right? After all, they know more about the demon world than he does, and they may know the existence of the Heart of Darkness. But if the undead controller is hostile to him, and the blood elves, then his actions in the demon world may not be able to continue. The advantages possessed by the blood elves may be considered advantages for the demons, who can be called a pile of loose sand in a sense, but Yufei has no confidence in fighting against the undead. The unified arms, neat and practical skills, and the rapid replenishment of troops. These advantages possessed by the blood elves are obviously not enough in front of the undead, which also exists in the Warcraft game, especially the undead, which has been developed for a long time. Considering these, Yufei felt that he could not directly contact the undead. Perhaps, Illidan's current identity as a Duke of Demons can be used. Didn't the undead have a so-called cooperative relationship with Duke Dracula before? Duke Dracula also explained that this so-called cooperation was that Duke Dracula provided the undead with the collected magic hearts as the price for obtaining power from the undead. The magic heart can be absorbed by the demons to enhance their strength, and naturally contains a lot of energy. Yufei also tried it, and the magic heart can indeed be converted into energy after being thrown into the sun well. He just didn't care about this little energy, because he shared energy with the world of Veslays. However, for the undead living in the demon world, the demon heart must be a major way for them to obtain energy. At least, after descending to the demon world, Yufei did not find the existence of energy mines in the Blood Mountain and the surrounding large areas. This may be because the abandoned land is very barren. Since there is such cooperation, there must be periodic exchanges between Duke Dracula and the undead. What Yufei wants to take advantage of is the opportunity of this exchange. Because he didn't know whether he could transform into this demon that had been transformed by the undead. After killing Duke Dracula, Illidan didn't choose to kill him for safety. In this case, he could only use other methods. Just when Yufei planned the next action and was ready to explore the undead, something else happened and disrupted his plan. This time, it was not the demons that Yufei was mentally prepared for to attack together, but something went wrong in the world of Veslays. Although he didn't know what happened, the Night Elves in the world of Veslays had been praying for the response of the Father God. As his foundation, Yufei attached much more importance to the Night Elves than to the Blood Elves. Therefore, he put aside all his plans and began to transfer his main consciousness to the world of Veslays. Sorry, it's my dad's birthday today, so I'm quite busy. I can only update this once. I'll try to make up for it with 3 updates tomorrow. Chapter 448, Cheers from Kalundborg. Slazer World, Skarn Kingdom, the capital of Kalenburg. On the top of the city, the soldiers defending the city fell to the ground one after another, taking advantage of the free time of the battle to recover some physical strength. From the scars and tattered armor of these soldiers, as well as the red eyes like rabbits, it can be seen that they have been fighting for a long time. There seems to be no trace of life in the red eyes of all the soldiers. The long-lasting battle and the terrifying enemies under the city wall have exhausted all the fighting will of the most elite soldiers in these kingdoms. If they did not know that, if the enemy captured the city, everyone, including them, would not survive. A large part of these extremely tired soldiers would definitely choose to surrender. At the beginning, many other cities in the kingdom chose to surrender when facing those terrifying enemies. But what shocked everyone was that those enemies did not care whether you surrendered or resisted. As long as you broke through the city, you would start a massacre. After sending out some desperate magic messages, the cities that surrendered at the beginning had no news. The rest of the cities that had been warned began to fight back. However, the enemy was unexpectedly strong. Every day, news of the fall of several cities came from the magic tower of the kingdom. Finally, 3 days ago, the enemy attacked the capital, Kalundborg. As the capital of the kingdom of Skagen, Kalundborg had a strong defense force, so it could withstand the enemy's continuous attacks for 3 days. But even though the royal family sent out the palace guards and used a rotation defense method, the physical and mental strength of all the soldiers in Kalundborg had reached a limit. There was no sound on the top of the city, and even those soldiers with wounds all over their bodies had become accustomed to the pain. The soldiers knew that they might lose their lives in the next round of enemy attacks, but they were already the last fighting force of Kalundborg and could not afford to retreat. Suddenly, there was a commotion at the base of the city wall. Almost all the soldiers stood up alertly and grabbed their weapons. But then, they relaxed. It was not the enemy that they expected to launch an attack again. The commotion occurred inside the city wall. Although they didn't know what happened, the soldiers were seldom curious enough to look under the city wall. They were already the last soldiers of Kalundborg, and there was no possibility of friendly troops replacing them. Besides, they didn't care about anything that happened inside the city wall. The only thing the soldiers were aware of was to use everything they had to resist the enemies outside the city. However, to their surprise, the riot at the base of the city wall became bigger and bigger and gradually spread to the city wall. Now, the soldiers who had originally looked lifeless all looked confused and then began to check the situation. When they poked their heads out of the city wall and looked down, they suddenly had unbelievable thoughts in their minds. The source of the riot was actually a group of fully armed soldiers who were climbing up the wall. How could it be? Aren't we the last soldiers of Kalundborg? All the soldiers who were still fighting on the city wall knew clearly that there was no army in Kalundborg at this time. Among the defenders on the city wall now, there are the original city guards, the palace guards, and even the private guards of nobles and ministers. After 3 days of fighting, there is no chance of rotation. All kinds of troops have suffered heavy losses, and in the end only the existing soldiers on the city wall who originally belonged to different troops are left. Even the palace guards and the nobles' private army have suffered a lot of losses, and they have to defend together with the ordinary city guards. Where did these soldiers who are coming to the city wall come from? With confusion, the soldiers stood up and prepared to welcome these sudden reinforcement. No matter where these soldiers came from, it is a good thing for them. More strength will make defense easier. But as the newly appeared soldiers scattered to various places on the top of the city, they finally exposed their identities. Shouts of confusion or shock suddenly rang out on the city wall. Father? Why are you here? Brother? Who told you to come here? Go home quickly, it's too dangerous here. Elena? Why do you look like this? The soldiers on the city wall were surprised to find that these reinforcements that suddenly appeared were actually people they knew. Some found their fathers, some saw their brothers, and even some women were among these soldiers who came to support. Most of the people who recognized each other hugged each other tightly. In this war, they thought they would never see each other again. And more of the soldiers who came to support had a gloomy look. The person they wanted to see again had already died. After a burst of excited noise, those who were originally guarding the city wall asked why their relatives or friends came here dressed as soldiers. The answers they got made them silent one by one. Their relatives, lovers, or friends were not forced to come to the city wall to participate in the battle as they imagined. In Kalan Castle, His Majesty the King personally mobilized the citizens and laid the crisis of national extinction nakedly in front of them. The enemies outside the city were like demons that would massacre every city after they captured it. After His Majesty the King mobilized them, many people, especially those who knew the soldiers guarding the city, chose to participate in the battle. The king set up a military department in the center of the city and distributed armor and weapons to all those who were willing to fight. In normal times, things like full body armor are regulated. But now it doesn't matter. Any more combat power is good. The original soldiers guarding the city sighed and remained silent. The reason why they fought hard and did not flinch in the face of death that could come at any time was to protect their relatives, lovers, or friends who were now on the city wall. Now, the people they wanted to protect have also come to face death together, which makes them feel very relieved in their hearts despite their anxiety. Even if it is death, it is happiness to die next to the people you care about, right? The hands holding the weapons increased their strength. The soldiers had never been so eager to repel the enemy as they were now. While all the above happened on the city wall, the palace of Kalundborg was not calm. King Skarn, dressed in a royal robe, walked anxiously outside a door on the top of the mage tower. King Skarn had just mobilized the citizens of Kalundborg and mobilized the last force he could mobilize. He knew that there was no more force to replenish in Kalundborg. Now all he could count on was the enshrined mage inside the door. Don't get me wrong, The enshrined mage who barely entered the legendary level was powerful, but even with the help of the mage tower, it was still difficult to turn the tide in a war of this scale. What King Skarn was looking forward to was the magic communication that the enshrined mage could bring. Finally, with a creak, the door opened. King Skarn, pacing back and forth, stared at an old magician who walked out of the room, his eyes full of expectation and inquiry. He was not disappointed. The old magician nodded slowly. King Skarn was immediately delighted and let out a low cry of excitement. It was not his fault that the ruler of a country did not pay attention to his image. It was because he was under too much pressure during this period. As a king who loved his people, the news of the fall and massacre of every city in the kingdom added a wound to his heart, and the endless enemies outside Kalundborg made him feel desperate. Now, there was finally a glimmer of hope to solve the crisis. How could he not be excited? Without hesitation, King Skarn quickly entered another room in the magic tower with the old worshipper. Not long after, with the help of the constant super large sound amplification of the magic tower, the king's voice spread throughout Kalundborg. My people, it has been 3 days. We have persisted for 3 days in front of those terrifying undead spirits. The soldiers on the city wall have gradually lost the strength to pick up weapons, and even I, the king, have begun to feel desperate. King Skarn said these words in a low voice, which made everyone in Kalundborg feel depressed. Could it be that His Majesty the King is going to give up resistance? Impossible. His Majesty has just mobilized the citizens to join the battle, and even if they give up resistance, the undead will massacre the city. The king continued, but now I want to tell you that the dawn has appeared. Kalundborg, and even our entire Skarn kingdom, are saved. Grand Mage Endler has just contacted the army of the Dark Knight Empire through magic communication, and they are only half a day away from Kalundborg. Yes, the reinforcement of the Dark Knight Empire are coming. Hang on, it only takes another half a day, and the army of the Dark Knight Empire will arrive, and the undead outside the city will not be a concern. We will be rescued soon. The entire Kalundborg suddenly became quiet, and then cheers came from all over. In the pitch black darkness, there is nothing more exciting than seeing a ray of light. Almost all humans know the power of the Dark Knight Empire. Since the elf reinforcement are about to arrive, it means that the danger will no longer exist. Half a day, just hold on for another half a day. On the city wall, both the original soldiers and the later militiamen once again reaffirmed their will to fight. In the mage tower, King Skarn was not idle either, and he threw the kingdom's last remaining magic crystals into the magic circle, so that the enshrined magician could guide and cast magic to strengthen the city wall. In order to save magic crystals, he was reluctant to use the super large sound amplification on the mage tower when mobilizing. Chapter 449, Undead Scourge. Tino threw the boulder in his hand fiercely, hitting the skeleton troops who were still in uniform, even when they were running away. As the boulder he threw fell, the other mountain giants seemed to have received an order, and they all condensed stones and threw them at the skeleton troops. The skeletons with slender bones were bombarded to pieces under this rain of stones, and many skeleton warriors were scattered into broken bones. This record immediately made the archer troops behind the mountain giants a little unhappy. The several rounds of attacks they launched before combined did not achieve as much results as the mountain giants. There was no way the effect of the archer's arrows when facing these skeletons was really unsatisfactory, and they were not as good as the mountain giants' crushing boulder offensive. The undead gradually fled away, and Tino had no intention of leading the army to pursue them. The main force of the undead besieging Kalun Castle had just been almost wiped out by the Night Elf troops led by Tino, and the few undead who escaped now were no longer a concern. After the kingdom of Skarn rested for a while, it might be able to wipe out these undeads with its own strength. After all, although about 1/3 of the cities in the entire kingdom of Skarn were captured by the undead, more cities had not been attacked by the undead. From the perspective of Tino, Yufei watched the skeletons that were gradually moving away. A few days ago, Yufei's main consciousness returned to the world of Veslays under the call of the Night Elves. Although they were one, it took him 4 days to convert his consciousness between different worlds. After returning to the world of Veslays, Yufei quickly learned the reason why the Night Elves called him. It was not that the Dark Knight Empire was attacked by human countries as he imagined, but that something had happened in the human world. In many human countries, including the three empires, many undead suddenly appeared. The skeleton army swept through those weak countries, accumulated a large number of skeletons and zombies, and then entered some kingdoms, cooperating with the undead that appeared in the kingdoms to start wreaking havoc. Among many countries, only the three empires were able to react in time and suppress the undead that appeared in their territories. The rest, even the more powerful kingdoms, were able to suppress the undead that appeared in their own countries, but when the nearby small countries were slaughtered by the undead and the expanding undead troops entered their own territories, they also had great difficulty in resisting. The appearance of the undead naturally had a source, and soon everyone discovered that the undead that appeared in various places were actually controlled by someone. These people were the undead wizards who were originally hidden in the dark. I don't know where these undead wizards got the courage to summon countless skeletons and zombies to attack most human countries. What shocked everyone was that their attack was actually very effective. In just less than 10 days, all the states and principalities where the undead appeared were destroyed. Even many kingdoms fell under the attack of the endless undead army. After clearing the undead in their own territories, the three empires also began to try their best to support other countries, but they were still unable to do so. It stands to reason that such a disaster in human countries has nothing to do with the Night Elves. Yufei was hoping that the power of the human world would be greatly weakened, so that it would be convenient for his conquest plan. But if only human countries were hit by disaster, the Night Elves would not call on their father Yufei. In the Dark Knight Empire, traces of the undead also appeared. Although the undead in the Dark Knight Empire were wiped out before they could make any waves under Tyrann's decisive decision, the threat of the undead was still revealed. More importantly, the human countries bordering the Dark Knight Empire were almost all infested with undead. If the undead had finished wreaking havoc on these countries, the next target might be the Dark Knight Empire. After noticing the abnormality of the large number of undead and their powerful expansion ability, Tyrant finally made a decision and prayed in front of Yufei's body, calling back Yufei's main consciousness. Yufei was also extremely surprised by the huge number and crazy momentum of the undead that suddenly appeared. Subconsciously, he linked the appearance of a large number of undead in the world of Vesles with the undead. Although all signs indicate that the event called Dead Calamity in the world of Vesles was jointly done by a large number of local necromancers, Yufei felt that the undead must be involved. This is not the so-called intuition of men and trees, but a conclusion drawn after judgment. When Yufei first entered the human world with the Elf King's clone, he encountered a necromancer. Later, because of this, he also specifically learned about this profession that interested him. After all, when he read novels on Diane Yang, he still liked the profession of necromancer. But after a detailed understanding, Yufei found that the existence of necromancers in the world of Vesles was very similar to what he imagined. Like the necromancers described in most novels, this profession is very unpopular in the world of Vesles, even if it cannot be called a street rat. After all, no one wants to have a corpse that cannot rest in peace after the death of themselves or their relatives and friends. And the necromancers who are hostile to most people naturally have little room for development in the world of Vesles. Only in some remote places can we find traces of necromancers. Of course, necromancers must be extremely yearning for places like cities where people gather. The materials for casting necromancers cannot be separated from corpses. All along, the necromancers who have been suppressed can only develop their inheritance in secret. Even in order to hide their own existence, even if they are all necromancers, they rarely know and communicate with each other. Even if there are some necromancer organizations, they are all small scale. But in this undead disaster, the power and organization exposed by the necromancers are amazing. How could the necromancers, who are suppressed and don't communicate much with each other, suddenly come up with so many undead creatures and attack various human countries together? Yufei concluded that there must be something strange about this. Does Yuan Fang have a sense of deja vu? In addition, Yufei immediately linked the two together after receiving the news of the existence of the undead from the demon world. Otherwise, why would the necromancers have revolted earlier or later, but at this time? If I can find a way to cross space to the demon world, maybe the controller of the undead has also found a way to come to or interfere with the world of Vesles. Although the launch of the undead disaster affects almost all human countries, it does not mean that the Dark Knight Empire is not in danger. Just as Tyrande worried, if the several neighboring countries of the Dark Knight Empire were all conquered by the undead, their next target is likely to be the Dark Knight Empire. Although the Night Elves seemed to be more relaxed when clearing the undead in their own territory, it was because the undead troops were discovered and quickly wiped out by the elves as soon as they appeared in the territory of the Dark Knight Empire, leaving them no chance to develop. As you knew, the undead's ability to snowball is very strong, and they can use the human sea tactics, the bone, corpse, sea tactics to the extreme. Just look at what the undead army has done in human countries. They do not accept surrender at all. Every time they capture a city, they massacre the city and transform it into a large number of skeletons and zombies. Although these skeletons are generally weak, their number is enough to make people terrified. Not every country is as powerful as the Dark Knight Empire. The general army is not enough in front of the seemingly endless sea of skeletons and zombies. Although a strong man can get rid of a transformed skeleton, as long as he is brave enough, the armies of various countries are facing enemies that are dozens or even dozens of times larger than themselves. You couldn't imagine how huge a force would be formed if tens of millions of humans in the kingdoms around the Dark Knight Empire were slaughtered and transformed by the undead. Immediately, Yufei used the Elf King's clone to order that except for a small number of troops left behind, the rest of the Dark Knight Empire's troops would all go out of the country to clear out the undead that were wreaking havoc in the surrounding countries. The high-level leaders of the Night Elves, such as Tyrande and other heroes, vaguely knew that the Elf King's clone seemed to be a clone of the Father God, and had no objection to his order. For example, Tyrande originally called Yufei back to make a decision, because she had no power to do so, and she fully supported this decision. Except for her being in charge of the Moon Temple and unable to go out easily, her moon guards were all sent out. The troops led by Tino were responsible for helping the Kingdom of Skarn. Although the undead in the Kingdom of Skarn had made some progress, they were still not enough when facing the Night Elf troops, especially when they had consumed a lot of undead creatures in front of Kaelenberg. Of course, the help of the Dark Knight Empire to the neighboring countries would definitely not be without cost. For example, in the Kingdom of Skarn, Tino came all the way and conquered all the cities that the undead had captured. These places without the citizens of the Kingdom of Skarn were naturally swallowed up by the Dark Knight Empire. Even if the Kingdom of Skarn had objections to this, it did not dare to raise them. Not to mention that the Dark Knight Empire had just helped itself solve the undead crisis. Just looking at the powerful Dark Knight Empire army outside the capital, the Kingdom of Skarn did not have the courage to raise any objections. Besides, those cities were almost destroyed by the undead, and even if they were taken back and rebuilt, it would be a big problem. More importantly, there were no citizens there. After considering all parties, King Skajan readily ceded 1/3 of his country's territory to the Dark Knight Empire. Chapter 450, War Profits. In addition to the Kingdom of Skarn, the other neighboring countries that the Dark Knight Empire aided also consciously assigned the territories that the Dark Knight Empire army had seized from the hands of the undead to the Dark Knight Empire. In a sense, this sudden undead disaster not only did not cause much trouble to the Night Elves, but instead expanded the territory of the Dark Knight Empire by more than half. There was no way the surrounding human neighboring countries were really disappointing. The fact that 1/3 of the territory of the Kingdom of Skarn was occupied by the undead was already the best. One kingdom even had its capital captured, leaving only 1/4 of the territory to maintain the existence of the kingdom. Several kingdoms ceded as little as 1/3 and as much as 3/4 of their territory to the Dark Knight Empire, which naturally expanded the territory of the Dark Knight Empire a lot. To be honest, Yufei felt that he could not be considered taking advantage of the situation. Just as King Skarn thought, the territories occupied by the undead were often left with only ruins, and almost all the citizens were killed and turned into skeletons. What was the use of taking them back? Not to mention how much resources would be consumed to rebuild so many cities. Even if the cities were rebuilt, there would be no extra people to fill them. But the Dark Knight Empire was different. Because Tyrande handled it decisively, the Dark Knight Empire had cleared out the undead in its territory early on, and did not let them harm the citizens of the Dark Knight Empire at all. On the contrary, there were many more people who fled from other places in the Dark Knight Empire. Compared with those human neighbors, the Dark Knight Empire is now extremely rich in both resources and population. It can be said that there is no pressure to digest the newly acquired territory. What's more, what the Dark Knight Empire values in expanding its territory is not how many cities it occupies, but how many more magic crystal mines and gold mines there are in the occupied territory, and how much more energy it can obtain. Although the Night Elves are no longer worried about energy, now there is another Blood Elves who need energy, so the more the better. After ceding a lot of territory from several neighboring countries, Yufei even thought about whether to let the Dark Knight Empire's troops wander around again, help other human countries, and then expand the territory according to the rules. But after thinking it over again and again, he finally gave up this extremely tempting idea. Although the undead scourge is huge and has brought great trauma to the human world, it seems that it will not be able to destroy too many human kingdoms, let alone empires. The main power of the human world is still concentrated in the 3 empires and those top kingdoms. For the rest, whether it is a weak kingdom or a large number of principalities and states, it is not a big deal to destroy them. Don't you see that even without the undead scourge, almost every year in the human world, old principalities and states are destroyed, and new small countries are established? Now the undead forces are in full swing, but it is not only the Dark Knight Empire that is taking action. The 3 major human empires have also freed up their hands and started to help other human countries to eliminate the undead forces. It will not take long for the undead scourge to be suppressed. I just don't know how far those necromancers can go in the end. When the human world stabilizes and finds that the Dark Knight Empire has taken advantage of the undead scourge to occupy a large amount of territory belonging to human countries, they will definitely have different ideas. It is very likely that the Dark Knight Empire will become the target of public criticism. Although with the strength of the Night Elves, there is no need to be afraid, even if the forces of the entire human world are integrated. But Yufei does not want to start the final battle with humans so soon. First, what he is mainly doing now is to develop the Blood Elves in the demon world and find the Heart of Darkness. Second, the appearance of the undead also makes Yufei alert and has to make more considerations. If the undead and the Night Elves have conflicts, then human forces can be used. Yufei is almost certain that the undead disaster in the world of S-Laser must be driven by the undead. Not for anything else, but because the ghouls and gargoyles summoned by the necromancers when fighting the Night Elf troops. These 2 types of undead creatures have never appeared in the world of S-Laser, and only the undead have them. If it weren't for the discovery of a place where necromancers gathered when clearing out several human neighboring countries, Yufei would not have seen these 2 familiar types of soldiers. Although it is unknown how these 2 types of soldiers were controlled by those necromancers who were obviously not undead, this did not prevent Yufei from linking the scourge of the undead with the undead. All human countries should be extremely angry about the emergence of the scourge of the undead. If the undead and the Night Elves conflict, and Yufei spreads the news that the scourge of the undead was initiated by the undead, then the human countries will definitely be happy to take revenge. After occupying the territories cut from several human neighbors, the elves began to look for magic crystal mines and gold mines as they were familiar with them, and then handed them over to the underground dwarves for development. The underground dwarves were the first of the 3 major subspecies of the dwarves to surrender to the Night Elves, and now they have replaced the elves in collecting minerals. There is no way around it. The elves must have a tree of life nearby to collect energy mines, and they must be entangled with minerals before they can mine. If the underground dwarves are used, there will be no such restrictions. Of course, when it comes to collecting wood resources, the elves are irreplaceable. Among the 4 races in Warcraft, only the Night Elves will not worry about the difficulty of obtaining wood after cutting down the surrounding trees, because the elves will not cause damage to the trees when collecting wood. Although they are not going to occupy more territory, it does not mean that Yufei will not make another fortune from the occurrence of the scourge. For now, the scourge is still in its hot stage, and humans and undead are fighting each other. In this anxious situation, humans will not mind spending a lot of money to buy a lot of enchanted equipment, right? That's right, Yufei is going to sell some of the equipment exchanged in the Hunter's Hall to human countries. This time, it is not sold secretly through pirates and his O'Brien territory, but sold directly in the name of the Dark Knight Empire. In order not to expose the relationship between the Night Elves and the Shadow Kingdom and O'Brien territory, Ufei also took great pains to change the style of the equipment currently produced from the Hunter's Hall. In addition, he exchanged for the worst equipment in the Hunter Hall, which only increased the attack or defense attributes a little bit, and could barely be considered enchanted equipment. Of course, poor quality also means that the quantity will be huge. Ufei handed over the equipment sales to the local elves. Although a large part of the Night Elves troops have now been upgraded to the elite level and have good wisdom, they still don't know much about the ways of the world and are still not suitable for diplomacy and trade. As for those heroes, it is a complete waste to use them for such things. It was not beyond Ufei's expectation that, even if the Dark Knight Empire raised the price of batches of enchanted equipment very high, various human countries still flock to it. Enchanted equipment is often something that only officers and nobles have. There is no army among humans that is fully equipped with enchanted equipment except for the palace guards of the three empires. Although the Dark Knight Empire raised the price very high, large quantities of standard enchanted equipment are rare, and many countries choose to buy them at a high price. Even the three empires couldn't help but buy some. Ufei naturally had some considerations for selling these equipment. For every piece of equipment sold, the energy that the Night Elves could obtain was enough to exchange for 10 pieces in the Hunter's Hall. It would be a shame not to use this tenfold profit. As for whether it would aid the enemy, Ufei had some doubts at first, but after carefully checking the instructions for equipment exchange in the Hunter's Hall, he was relieved. Although the equipment sold to humans would not be directly destroyed by the control of the Night Elves, the attributes attached to it would have no effect when facing the creatures controlled by Ufei. In other words, if the human army wears the equipment bought from the Night Elves to fight against the Night Elves, then these equipment will be the same as not having them. In this way, there is no need to worry that the equipment sold will cause harm to the Night Elves themselves in the future. After eliminating various concerns, the Dark Knight Empire began to sell a large number of the lowest level equipment in the Hunter's Hall in exchange for countless magic crystals. In name, it was because the Dark Knight Empire could not bear to see humans being bullied by the undead, and took the initiative to support human countries, which was a righteous act. It can be said that this undead disaster not only expanded the territory of the Dark Knight Empire, but also made a lot of money from the war, and earned a greater positive reputation than sealing the alien space. Of course, although the war wealth was very happy, Ufei had to consider the problem of the undead. Unexpectedly, just after learning about the existence of the undead in the demon world, he wanted to find a way to contact them, but found that the undead were stirring up trouble in the world of Veslays. Perhaps this is a good time to contact the undead. In the demon world, because of the fear that the changes of the blood elves would be exposed to the undead, Ufei only made an imperfect plan for Illidan to secretly contact some undead. But the world of Veslays can be said to be the home of the Night Elves, and Ufei is not worried that the existence of the Night Elves will be known by the undead. Moreover, since the undead had already launched the undead scourge through the local necromancers and Veslays, they must have also learned some news about the Night Elves and the Dark Empire. In this case, it didn't matter whether they were exposed or not. However, how to find the contact information of the undead's controller was a big problem. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.